Oh, that was fun.
We're on.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
I'm laughing. We're a bunch of amateurs here, rank amateurs, trying to talk through how this is going to work out. We'll see how.
Yeah.
Welcome to the stream, everybody. If you were at MWAVE, we're hoping to share some of our experiences and let you have sharing some of the fun if you weren't able to make it. And you feel free to comment and chat. Let's talk through what you guys experienced as well. We'll answer questions. We'll just have a good time tonight. So these are some of the old guard from the Kansas City group. Sheldon and Ryan and Tim. We were probably all met around 2010, 2011, 2012 timeframe, I think, for the different meets, mostly the subwoofer shootout for each of us. And just been friends since. Done a lot of hobby activity together, a lot of comparisons, subwoofer, speakers, amps, the whole 9 yards. It's been a blast. So Sheldon and I did a little overview last year, had a great time. Thought we'd include a couple of the other old guard this time and just see how it goes. So what do you guys think of the show? Like good, bad, indifferent?
From a top level, it was top to bottom, like a pretty big improvement over the previous year. And the previous year was pretty good, right? There were just like a ton of like small quality of life improvements that all sort of like added up to just a much more cohesive / professional feeling show top to bottom by the time it was over. So I was super happy with it. So props to the two at the top who seem to have pulled it off, apparently.
Yeah, I thought they did a real good job. I've heard this over and over again, and I think it's true. I think it got better every year. It got a little bit less kind of ad hoc, more polished along the way. And like the vendors were all great this year. The rooms were ready to go. Everything was real smooth. It was fantastic, really. Like I can almost even have like emotional high from the weekend. It was just a lot of fun.
Agreed.
There were like, and little things like just simply like last year, for example, they did have some seminars and some speeches, presentations, whatever you want to call it. Just having, knowing what those were a little bit farther out from the show, and then having posted somewhere, and then having little things like the banners having the QR codes at each door, so you could get a quick scan and a rundown what's going in the room that week. Having the food trucks just directly outside of the convention center. All of those things, it helps you find what you're looking for, and also helps, it gives you more to look forward to up front as well, right? So all of that, I think, plays in to make it all better, right?
And some of those seminars were put on by like real well-known professionals in the hobby. Like that was nice too, to have some names that you've heard for years and haven't met and got an opportunity to meet. So that was cool as well.
Yeah, I don't remember them having so many Atmos set up rooms last year, right?
They didn't.
They haven't, right? I think they had 3 last year and 6 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot. That was very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool to see lines like all day at 2 of the rooms. I think it was JTR and Gramani.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a good sign. Did you guys see the final numbers? It was like almost 500 people.
Just shy of, yeah. That was a big jump. I think Michael was even talking about you bunch of procrastinators because it was sort of like for a while there was like tracking to similar numbers, except for, of course, last year a bunch of people showed up at the last second, and this year a bunch of people showed up at the last second. And that's fine because life happens and sometimes you really don't know until, but it's always fun to to see that ramp up, like kick in. So
And I'm one of those people. So the last 2 years they paled in comparison because I wasn't there. This is my first year.
The only good year because Tim was there.
Exactly. It got way better because I was there.
And then some people have to pick the last minute: Pokemon or home
The
theater.
Comic-Con.
Oh man, no kidding, right? Like I was, because there were some people at the Collecticon next door where I was like, Steve Blum, that's Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop. I would love to get his autograph on some stuff, right? So, but it is what it is. I feel like I made the right choice.
I saw some of the people kind of poke their heads over kind of by the RBH room as they were walking in that were going to the Collecticon. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
you
you
can't
some of
help
those
but notice it when you walk by.
costumes
It's hard
sort
to
of made me
ignore.
laugh. Like, whoa, that's a little
I think
odd.
they were like, I wonder what's going on over here. It was like, this might not be us.
Well, and then they would have no idea that you have to pay, and they just start going in rooms and having a good time.
Well, that's when their crowd control systems really have their hands full, right? So it's not just sitting on a chair in one spot anymore. You got to get up.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, to show you how fun I thought it was. So last year I went Saturday, and then Sunday I was just dead tired, which I was this year too. But last year I was like, I didn't go. This year I was like, I gotta go. And then I show up late morning, hang out with you guys most of the time. I don't notice anybody eating. I'm not thinking about what time it is at all. And all of a sudden, hunger just hits me. I look at my watch; it's like 3:45. I'm like, "What? I missed lunch. I forgot to eat." So, yeah,
That's what happened to me last year, actually, where I was panicking because I made the mistake of thinking I can do it in a day, right? I always make this mistake. And so you look at stuff, and somehow, some way, there's always something after the show's over where somebody says something. And I'm like, well, wait, now where was that at? I thought I saw everything.
yeah. Yeah, like I never saw stereo integrity room. What else did I not see?
Well, we were just talking backstage. Like, did anyone see, was the Spotify versus Tidal, like hi-fi versus not room going? Like that was in the MWAVE, but I never saw the room.
I never saw that either. Yeah.
I don't know, but to your point, like it wasn't one of those things where like, oh, I got to go back Sunday. It was like, I want to go back Sunday. There's so much stuff I want to see again or hear again or experience again, or didn't get enough time to spend in. Like it was really a cool show.
Yeah.
I didn't go Friday night. Did you guys go Friday night?
I did. Yeah.
So you were there all 3 days.
Oh yeah. I want to get my money's worth.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Just so long as your wallet doesn't get too light after the show's over because of it.
Oh,
right?
it got way lighter.
Yeah, there you have it. That's
Tim came back with a few toys. Tell us a little bit about that, Tim.
Oh, I brought my wife with me, who had a much better time than she expected. She brought a book with her, and she never read it once. So I thought that was a success. And she talked me into buying some of those JTRs from the demo room.
Wait,
that's a little funny.
Is that really how it went down?
Yeah, tell us a little more.
So, all right, the first 2 days, everything was kind of going normal. We were Friday was really more like setup 2.0 for most of those guys. So they had set up, kind of did a quick EQ kind of stuff, and then a lot of things just went wrong. And so we kind of got some early demos of things. And then Saturday, like everything changed from Friday to Saturday, as everyone had more time overnight when everything was, shut down for the night. And so yeah, we were even talking after Saturday about how like this has been kind of a cheap, other than parking and stuff, because we were crazy and parked real close. But other than that, we were like, this has been a pretty cheap weekend or whatever. And my wife on Sunday decided, like, hold my beer and watch this. Yeah. Which, to set off the whole Sunday fiasco, when we first got there, we were walking in and we were walking past Desert Dome Michael, and we were saying hi to him again. And he's like, hey, are you in the market for a rack, like an equipment rack? And I'm like, I'm not in the market for a rack, because I would like one. I've been kind of in the market for like a little half, like kind of what Jonathan has in his room, that I could put in the wall or whatever. That'd be a little bit more finished than trying, because I have some rails now that I was going to build a box around. And so, yeah, I'm like, yes, I'm very interested in a rack. And he's like, well, come in here. And he introduced me to one of the guys who had one of the demo, I think it was the RTJ room, but it wasn't Jeff that was in charge of this section of it. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of this rack because we can't move it. It's too big for us to move it back to where we're going. And so they made me a real nice offer, and I took it. And I was like, yes, I have a van. I could take it today. No problem. So that was the very first interaction I had for Sunday. Just walk in the door and I buy an equipment rack right off the bat. So then we're doing the whole show and stuff, and I don't even know what happened. We ran into Jonathan in the RBH room, I think, and then we got separated again, and then we showed up in the RTJ room, ran into Jonathan again. He's sitting there talking with Jeff from JTR, and my wife was like nudging me a little, like, hey, you should ask him if he's got any deals for the show, like any show specials. And I'm like, all right, I'll ask. I mean, there's only a handful of us in there. It's like 5 people in the whole room. So I'm like, hey, Jeff, you got any deals? He's like, let's talk. And one thing led to another, and I ended up with 3 of those 212 RTs. And I had to work with Jonathan to be able to get it home. Luckily, he brought his truck and was willing to take them for me. So
Jeff's like, you got something to take him home? And Tim's like, I got Jonathan here.
Which, funny story, when he comes to deliver it, he thought I was going to come skipping out of my house like a school
Like
girl.
Sheldon. I said, you didn't come out and hug the speakers like I expected. It's like I saw Sheldon do one time.
I was waiting for him to be set up. But I thought he was going to need my help to bring them in. He just chucked 2 of them on each arm, just walked them in, set them down. Before I even blinked, he had the third one and my rack all in my house. Then
Like
I
Paul
turned
Bunyan.
around. He was.
Anyone who's
Geeky
listening to
dudes at
JTR
the
speaker
best.
knows that's not real.
It is. This is all true. Next thing I know, I have some older clips in my living room, and he's like, I know your room's not done in the basement. So here, he just knocks over the clips. They're just laying on their side. He plops 2 of them down, and he had them wired up before I could even like turn around.
I did kind of force his hand on that because he's like, oh, I'll hook them up later. Just put them in the kitchen. And I was like, no, we're unhooking your clips. So I went and physically unhooked his clips and put them over on the side and hooked up his JTRs. Because
See, he
What
just
in the
knocked
world?
them over. I thought he was going to smash them. He didn't. He left them alone, but he knocked them over and put the JTRs in their spot.
I think there's a little funny story about your wife telling you that you should buy the JTRs because why? That made me laugh real hard after all these years.
Oh, you tell me, because I'm not sure where
Well,
it's going.
Said that she thought the JTR were a lot better than the clips that she said.
Well, they are.
Well, I mean, it just made me laugh because your
Oh,
wife
here we go.
and like, you can buy these if you want type thing. I was like, wow, that's that's wild.
Yeah, I even told Jeff, I was like, "There's just something with his compression drivers that no one matches."
Yeah,
They're
they're
so
super
good.
clean.
Yeah,
So what Youth Man saying, Jonathan?
No, I haven't been following the comments. I'm a little behind.
Well, he's talking about the guy getting the sweet deal on the 4-way masking screen.
Oh, yeah.
the 50-inch one.
No, was that the 220 inch, right?
Yeah, the Michael Scott version.
Yeah,
Holy smokes.
big one, the big boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got to listen to him more, Tim, I assume, since? Or
I have a little bit.
we started getting some fun texts of the night, like after he was listening to him saying, these are pretty fantastic. So that was fun.
And those texts would have never happened if you hadn't forced your hand.
See, now I'm getting blamed again. This isn't right. This was his wife, not me.
I mean, setting them up. He wouldn't have been listening to them that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
I probably wouldn't have, because I have so much going on. Like, we had a concert last night, and so it probably would have been at earliest today that I would have even played with them. So
How was the Modest Mouse concert?
it was really good. It was hot, super hot.
Left early.
I did. I only listened. So Pixies were the last band, and I listened about 45 minutes, and then I was like, my ears are done. My sweatiness is done. It's like, let's go get some ice cream and head home.
I saw a comment in here. I'm looking for it, but I can't find it. I'll have to go back later. But it said something to the effect that lucky guy, my wife would never tell me to buy JTR. Maybe your wife hasn't heard JTR. Maybe she should.
That's the trick. You have to bring them to MWAVE with you.
That was David that said that
Oh, okay.
from Deep Sea Sound.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's say what do you think your top 3 rooms were? Like we probably all have a little bit different selection, I would assume. I don't know. We haven't talked backstage. This is all kind of ad hoc. We're just gonna bring it up live. So, like, name your top 3 and maybe even why.
I can go first. I can do an icebreaker. The Swans room, the JTR room, and the Giamatti room. And that would let's see here. Of course, the thing anybody at home, watching this needs to realize, I didn't catch everything in detail, right? Out of everything I did catch, for whatever reason, those were the ones that spoke to me the most, right? So the Giamatti room probably won by default because it was the best room before anything was turned on. Because they were the ones who ended up having the most proper acoustic treatment, right? Like all the other rooms were clearly way too live, like way too reflective, that kind of thing. And that's not a knock against anything that's in the room. It's just how there's only so much setup time that you have available, only so much money you have available, only so much space for stuff you have to bring with you, and that's like so many decisions you need to make, right? So so it probably had the best balance for that reason. But I will also say I clearly don't listen to things as loud as everybody else does, because even though that was one of my favorite rooms, it was too loud for me, and I'd probably bring it down like at least 3 or 4 decibels if I was going to be listening to stuff like that at any normal level. Of course, I always really love the JTR room. It's definitely, you know, I always say it's the most bulletproof room, right? Like you can't break those things. I mean, probably can, but it's going to take a lot. And it has my favorite crew of the show. Like they're just a lot of fun. Those guys, Jeff and all those guys, and Tony, they're great. So they're always, they're the most cavalier to do whatever it is that you come up with, I think, out of everybody. Some other rooms are like, oh, no. We're very much on the rails here. We're not going to be deviating to the left or the right there. And they're like, yeah, sure, we could try that. Yeah, let's throw that filter on here. Yeah, let's turn that off over there. It's kind of fun, kind of freeing. And then the last one, probably the Swans room. That was turned down a little bit more than the other 2 rooms, which probably had the volume levels that I listened to at the most similar. And I actually appreciated the fact that they started out with an Angry Birds clip that had no explosions whatsoever. It was basically like just the laid back picture quality demo. I'm sure some people watched that one and were like, I don't understand why this is here. But I enjoyed having like a reprieve for a second or two before you get into the crazier stuff. So it was nice to see that kind of thing.
So when you're saying Swan's room,
Yeah,
I don't think
Yeah,
that
that was a different room.
Yeah, you're
Or
talking
not Swans, excuse me, Ascendo. Excuse me, Ascendo room. Sorry.
Mike had the
Ascendo.
Swans. Yeah.
Sorry. Good grief. I went on a long tangent there with a misidentification up front. That's never good.
No, you're all right.
So
It
the
happens.
Ascendo one. So what was I going to say? So the other thing that I liked about the Ascendo room was I liked their calibration. There was more than one of that Christie projector at the show. I believe that was the 15 that was in that room, and I think I liked its calibration best in that room out of all the ones I saw on the show. And I do admit, I think, who was it? Was it you, Sheldon, who talked about if you're sitting in the front row, you could probably peep a little bit of screen door on it.
Yeah, for sure.
But it didn't bother me that much, though. So
The projector is only 1080p, right? I think
it's a pixel shift, as I recall. It's a 4K pixel shift is what it's supposed to be. So, and it's a super, super bright projector. It depends on whether or not you want to outfit it with a specialized lens or not, on how much it drops the lumens to. But I think it's somewhere around 5 to 7,500 native contrast normally, depending on where you want to clamp it down. And then with the lens, I think it bumps it up to at least double that, in the 15, 16 range, I think is what somebody said. So, so that was really cool. So I would have liked to have heard Mike's room a little bit longer. I only heard one demo in there. Was a Clapton song, and it sounded really good. I wish I just would have had a little bit more time in there.
The Cinemike room, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Cinemike room.
Oh, with the Black Swans?
Yes. Yeah, that is the Black Swans.
Yes. So sorry about that.
It's all right.
Sheldon, you want to take next?
I guess, but my 3 rooms are the same room, so
I'm glad I went first. It's like the other person orders the same sandwich as you, and you're like, yeah, I guess I'll have the same sandwich.
yeah. So, JTR was awesome. I thought they were even better than last year, probably because they doubled up the subs, right? Didn't they have they went from 8?
They had a 4,000 with every 212 RT.
Yeah, just about.
So.
Yeah. So, and I was I knew that there would be pretty good impact even in that massive room, but there was more than I thought there would be. The scene that really stuck out to me was the latest Mission Impossible movie with the train cars one at a time falling off the tracks, and just like getting that much feel in a room that huge was pretty impressive. So yeah, always loved JTR. Is it Gramani? Is that how it's pronounced?
I think so. Gramani, yeah.
Gramani? Okay. So yeah, the Gramani room was awesome. That screen, what did they say? 220 inches
I
wide?
think it's 220.
Like wide, not diagonal, right?
I don't
think it
know
was
that.
wide. I think it was wide.
Yeah, because I think he made a point of he only talks about screens in terms of width, but yeah, that projector lit that thing up and then some. That was an amazing image, and I thought the sound in there was fantastic. I would have turned up the bass, but you guys were in there on day 2, and the guy in the front row was like, "Hey, can you turn the bass back up?"
Yeah, that was Kevin. Well, one funny thing, it's like one of those things. You remember
Everybody was
last year at the JTR room, Jeff told me, the owner of JTR, that he had 2 clients leave the room. One said the bass was too loud, and the very next guy said the bass should have been louder, and they left like saying it to him back to back, immediately. So he can't please everyone all the time. In fact, the second day in the Giamatti room, they said they lowered the bass because people said it was too hot the first day. And so you're saying you want more bass. How do you? Yeah,
I know. Yeah, right. Exactly. So, but when they did the Fury scene, the last one, that still had pretty good bass, even with the, the bass turned down or whatever.
Nice mid bass with those artillery shots.
Yeah, but no, I know how that is when we're getting ready for our demos for the VIP thing. It's like I keep running the clips over and over. Well, maybe they'll like this much amount of stupid, crazy bass. Well, no, maybe they want even more stupid. Or I don't,
Yeah,
it's tough. But no, I thought that room sounded great, looked unbelievable. It seemed so short. That was and it had to be because that had the line.
Yeah.
And then the Ascendo room was great. Yeah, I usually don't notice the screen door effect, but I did. So Tim must have really been able to see that pretty easy with his eagle eyes over there. But but no, it sounded great. I close to being in those top 3 for me. May sound kind of odd for me because I'm an audio before video guy, but that JVC 900, didn't that look great?
You're taking my room from me.
Oh, sorry.
So no, you're fine. It's fine.
I'll let you talk more about it. The only bummer was Grant was in there on the first day, and he's thinking about, should I get that screen material? That 1.3 gain looks great. Well, that was before he and I knew that is not an AT material, so that was kind of a bummer. But
they said you can get it in AT, and it's a 10% less bright, so it'd be like a 1.2 gain instead of 1.3.
Yeah, but that's perf. That's not weave.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that works for a lot of people, but it wouldn't work in my setup. I don't have enough room. But yeah, so
same 3 for you then. All right, Tim, what about you?
I don't know if I can just limit to 3. Like the whole experience was good.
Somebody's ready to be a politician.
Yeah, but those 3 rooms do stick out. But I was going to throw in the JVC room just because that 900 looks so good. I was kind of hyping it up on Friday night for you guys. And it was really nice. Everything else, the RVH room was great. Martin Logan sounded great. I didn't really have a bad room. My first experience with the Black Swans wasn't so good on Friday, but they had changed it up quite a bit on Saturday and Sunday. So, I don't have a particular room. I do like the. I'm going to try to say it now. I was going to do some show and tell because someone handed me this. It's a little like
there is an R in there. I was wondering if there's an R. There is an R. Okay,
yeah, Gramani, right?
Gramani.
Did you guys pick this thing up? It's like it's all different rooms that he's done.
So you got a free consult from him too when I was in there with you.
Oh, is that why you have that, Tim?
No, they just handed it to me, and I noticed that Grant had it. And so when I went back on Sunday, I was like, "Do you guys have any more of those books?" So yeah, that's pretty cool.
They asked her in the demonstration if anyone was in the process of building a room, and Tim raised his hand, and they're like, "We'll give you a free 30-minute consult as part of a show giveaway." And I guess they did that in every session, so they're giving away a lot of just basic planning advice type threads. That was a pretty cool option.
Yeah.
1 week. They have my info, so we'll see what happens. But at this point, I'm pretty deep into it. So
yeah. Well, they could advise you
help.
on treatments or something. I mean, you could call and just
For
say,
sure.
like, all right, here's
Treatments for
my
sure.
room layout. Here's pictures. I'm already this far. Where would you suggest treatments? I mean, that's
Yep.
kind of what they're offering. It's anything you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my three favorites were, I would say, and I don't know the order. I'd have to really think about it to get the order. But the JTR room was a lot of fun. And Ryan and I went in there on Friday or Saturday night rather, and they did a partial Dune movie. Like they just started Dune 2 and they let it play until we got kicked out of there. And he had it, I think it had to be close to reference, maybe -2 or something like that. It was close to reference. And it sounded fantastic in there. Like really, really good. A lot of fun.
Somebody mentioned in the chat that one of their favorite demos was the sandworm ride inside of Dune Part 2. And for sure, that one was one of the more visceral experiences that I had the whole weekend. It was a blast.
Yeah, and all instrumental like soundtrack that comes from that movie is just fantastic. When you got all that bass, just fantastic. And then I'm going to go off on a little tangent here and say that I really like that Cinemic room, and I'm not sure that I heard that recourse from all of our group, but I really liked it. And not so much when they were playing the movie clips, because seemed like they were down mixing like a big Atmos clip to just stereo, because they just had the 2 Black Swans and a couple 32-inch subs. But when it went to stereo music, and more to the point, when I got the opportunity to, like, they gave me the remote and said, here, play some clips you like. And I got to play 4 clips that I know and love. I really thought, probably for the first time at that show, that this is next tier. Like this sounds next tier. I can never afford that. That's not on my radar. But even when I've been to Exponent and heard like $800,000 sound systems, like the highest sound system there was a couple $100,000 probably, right? In that range, I would assume.
Yeah.
I've heard speaker pairs that cost $800,000 in Exponent, and I've always been kind of like, I think there might be something to those Black Swans with that music. In fact, the first demo clip I did was a acoustic guitar. The first one I chose by Andrew Calvaconte. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but it's a really neat acoustic guitar clip. And after the clip was done, 2 or 3 people in the back started clapping. Like that tells you something. And then I played another one, and I played a Playing for Change Stand By Me song that's like 20 years old, just a YouTube video, low bit rate, and it made me tear up. They were playing it loud, and they were probably playing it truthfully. They were probably playing it above reference, but I like literally got emotional. They were kind of asking me some questions, and I couldn't hardly talk. I had tears coming out of my eye. Like, if you're doing that to somebody, like, I have a musical background. I played in marching band. I played in jazz band. I did choir. Like, I love music, and that made me emotional. And if it does that, it's doing something right. So like, that was fantastic.
Jonathan, I haven't heard you talk about step up with speakers in like 10 years.
Yeah, seriously.
I was like, whoa, wait, hold on.
This was something that was really special in that.
That's awesome.
And I'm kind of sad that they were doing, and it was cool. It was just over the top bombastic when they were doing those demo clips and he was saying like, hey, we're probably going 105. We're probably going like 5 dB over reference, 10 dB over reference. It was loud in there when they're doing the movie clips, but it's just 2 channels, and it doesn't work. Like, because we're so used to these home theaters with 15 speakers or 13 speakers, 11 speakers, whatever. 2 channels just kind of stinks. Even if it sounds fantastic, it just kind of stinks. That's not the right stuff to demo. He should have gone with the 2-channel stuff and let people select, because it was gorgeous. So I'm really looking forward to like Ryan's room. I haven't been over to Multar's yet, but Ryan's room and hearing those things when they're set up properly, because Ryan and Michael were swearing up and down it's next level. I don't get brought to tears very often with music. It happens occasionally, but it happened at that show and only in one room. So that room was special to me. I don't know about the Cinemic material. I as far as like the mods that they do with power supplies, I would like to experience more with that, but it was like an impossible situation. One time they had a session in there at 3:00, I think, on Saturday, where you could go in there and like experience the modded version versus like the non-modded Apple TV, Cinemic Apple TV versus Apple TV. But there's bass leaking in from all the extra rooms. There's like people talking. There's no way that you could focus and hear it. And then, frankly, you don't know if there's any gimmicks going on with the show either. As far as like kind of things that aren't set up correctly. You're just taking their word for it. So that's not the kind of environment that I like to do that kind of A/B. But for what it's worth, it sounded fantastic. And then my third favorite was what Stitch said, that JVC NZ900 was like, that was next tier to me. Like, I've seen NZ9s in multiple rooms and they're fantastic, but this was like wow, I've never seen an image that good except for an OLED. I've never seen anywhere close to that. And I think part of that might have been, if I'm just being real straightforward, I think that's probably that they have that 8K source material, because that Jacob and Katie Schwartz that do a lot of those real fancy YouTube videos, they made something specifically for JVC, and it's some of their content with that 8K red cam. So where are you going to find an 8K source? Most of us don't have access to that kind of thing, but they had that video clip. And Tim messaged me on Friday night. He's like, Jonathan, you got to go to the JVC room. I'm like, I've been in JVC rooms. I know all about JVC rooms. I'm not really that curious about that. But I walked in there and I was like, wow, okay, I see what. And then I was messaging, I told Sheldon, he's got to go in there and see a clip, particularly a scene in the clip that had like some metal, like intricate carving work. And every time that clip would come around in rotation, Sheldon would look away. We're like, Sheldon, stop looking away. Watch the clip right now. I missed it like 3 times, but eventually
I was too busy asking stupid questions
and measuring body parts.
Yeah. Oh, that doesn't sound right, but anyway. What was I going to say about? Oh, also, Jonathan, you got to think the 1.3 gain screen probably helps some too, right?
I think absolutely, because I'm floating at like a 0.87 with this.
Yeah, we're used to everybody's got a Wii
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it looked
not
super
to knock,
bright.
Not to knock it at all. I mean,
nose to screen, you couldn't see a pixel on the thing. I mean, it was beautiful. And the room wasn't perfect. I mean, they blocked out the exit light, thankfully, and try to make some black cloth and stuff, but it was still at the end of the day like not black carpet, not black walls.
Yeah,
and it still was like
literally
wow.
like slightly above it, behind it, you have an almost white wall, and somehow, some way, it was still, like you were saying, it was this close to like an OLED presentation. And what was the size?
165, 16 by 9.
So yeah, 165, 16:9. It was 12 feet wide.
So not small screen at all.
No.
I mean, like that kind of projected image is like, wow, just wow. I'd love to have that in my house. And somebody was saying, actually it was Chris, and I think he's in the comments here. Chris was saying that last year the NZ9 was in that room on a slightly smaller screen and looked very impressive, but not as impressive as he recalls as this NZ900. And he was thinking that it was maybe like the software that they're doing for the upscaler for the 8K or something might have a little notch up. Then you read stuff on the forums like Chris Deering saying it's almost sample variation territory. So I don't really know where that falls until we have some hands-on time, but just suffice to say, that was a super impressive demonstration. JVC really did well there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your sorry, go ahead.
One little added room, the projector comparison room that Nick and Andy put on. Fantastic presentation during their little test part. We also went in there another time when they were just kind of free flowing with everybody just coming and going. And I did miss one of the projectors, which is the Christie, but all the other ones I got to see, and just their whole presentation was as good as they could do with the room that they had. That was one of my favorite things to experience. That, and like we also had the TV shootout room. My wife and I went in there on the Friday night and spent some time with that. Stop the FOMO and all them putting on their little deal in there. And it was cool to be able to see all the TVs at the same time like that, which was just a nice cool experience.
Yes, not like in a warehouse store where there's bright lights, everything. It's a nice darkened room and everything.
Tim, and we could change all the settings, which was nice. So like they first put them all in like their normal like filmmaker modes or whatever was closest to that. And then some people wanted to see, what's it look like in this mode, or hey, I have the same TV at home. Let's try this mode, and just comparing all of them side by side was really fancy to see. And that just goes to like the experience of what MWAVE is, which is pretty cool.
Tim, the projector room, they had a Christie in there.
It was the one that has like a really high lumen output, but a so-so contrast, native contrast. I think it just sits at like 1001. I can't remember the exact model number. It's like 810A or something like that. I can't remember, but it's like I think it's 12K MSRP, something like that. 860. Thank you, Taylor. And so I was wanting to check that one out too, actually, but I tried 3 times to get in there to see it, and I only got to see it for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, because there were some other people who were wanting to check some things out, and I was only sort of like barely kicking the tires to want to see what it looked like. And I need to talk to Nick because he wasn't in the room at the time. It looked like it was a little blown out in comparison to the others. So I didn't know if it couldn't be reined in or not at that size, or what was going on there. It was just a little bit torchy, I guess you could say. So,
well, this is interesting. It says the NZ900 was also used in the RBH room, but it wasn't as impressive because it was 20 feet back. I didn't know
that's
that.
the question about the source material to me, because the RBH room when I was in there was just demoing like regular movie clips, and a lot of that stuff's like 2K or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So if your source material is like just stupid fantastic compared to what you're normally used to, that could play into this whole equation.
and
That's
then
the level I don't know.
And I can't think that, you know, it was that much of a difference in the throw distance between the two rooms. It would be like, you know, 15 or 16 versus 20. Like, I don't think an extra 3 or 4 feet would have made that big of a jump of the difference between the two. If you're seeing a drop
The
off.
JVC room was better blacked out, to be sure.
That too.
And so that would play
the
into it.
screen was better. Yeah, the room was darker. Yeah,
All those things matter.
yeah, for sure.
It didn't look bad in the RBH room either, though. We were watching some of those same clips, and it looked pretty good. But the 900 room itself was like cream of the crop for.
And I've seen the 9 quite a few times. A good buddy of mine has the 9, and he runs it in like low lamp because it's too bright for him. But yeah, so the NZ9 and 900, they're awesome. Yeah, love to have
problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, until this point, the best projected image I've ever seen is the NZ9 with Mad VR Envy over at Ryan's house.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think what I saw in the NZ900 was a step up from even that. And again, source material probably dependent.
Yeah, if you saw that in Ryan's room,
Mm-hmm.
good chance it looked just as good, right?
Yep.
Well, and they weren't running the Mad VR.
No, they were just doing the just straight NZ900, but their source clip was literally 8K material from a red cam on like raw footage. Like their server was spun up with a super loud fan. The GPU was working as hard as it could.
So
like,
loud, I was surprised. I think
that file must have been huge. Yeah, for it to Okay, so what about your biggest surprise? What would you say your biggest surprise was?
How I almost bought one of those. Almost cursed. I almost bought one of those chairs.
Which one?
I don't know. So when you know when you're facing them, the one on the very far left,
Yes,
and then the one on the very far right. Love both of those for different reasons. The one on the very far left of the little semicircle there was so comfortable. That might be the most comfortable home theater seat I've sat in. But then if I do something, I want to do what you did, where you have the option of having like no chair back, like the one on the far right has.
Mm-hmm.
But theirs, I don't know if I was sitting up too tall, but it just came up to like my brainstem or something. I wasn't loving that. Like in your room,
did you try the ones in the JTR room? That were from row 1?
No, I didn't see those in there.
So they're like Jonathan's, but they're from row 1. They were pretty comfy as well.
Did they have the little sliding armrest thing?
They do, which I don't love that.
No, because every time you sat down, it's like whoop, and if the guy down next to you, like whoop. Yeah.
Did you guys feel the material on Michael on Desert Domes?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what it was. It's some sort of space age material.
That was.
Are you talking about the red?
The red
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that stuff was so. I love the feel of it, but it also we were worried that it might wear more quickly because it would have a slight drag on your skin as you take your hand across it. But it felt so nice.
It was like butter. I don't even know how to describe it. It was amazing, and I love row 1 because I have row 1, and they lay down super flat. At least my model does, and so do the ones that Michael had. Like you could really get some good nap time.
I laughed because I looked over there and you were trying those Valencia chairs on your side. I gotta see if they fit when I lay down.
But if I was gonna nap in this, what position would I be in?
That happens to me all the time. I'll be like surfing the floor, I'm listening to music, whatever, and then I'm like, okay, and then I'm on my side and I'm out.
Yeah, I was wondering about that red material, what it would do, like if you sweat. Like, is it gonna stain? Is it gonna be sticky? That material was just too weird to describe almost.
I'm always cold.
When I first touched it, I thought it felt like the soft touch that cell phones used to have. Like that, for someone that didn't get to touch it, that's kind of how it felt. It has a little bit of a grip to it, but it's not like rubber. It's a weird soft touch material that is cool though.
Like a rubber and suede mixed almost or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool though. I liked it.
But no, yeah, the ones in the JTR room, I think those are the models that Calibari. Am I saying that wrong?
I think you're saying it right. That's the right name.
Yeah. Other than the arm slide out thing, I actually really liked those chairs. I tried to buy those chairs, and I was unable to buy those chairs because what I needed was a curved arm. And I contacted the manufacturer and they said, "Sorry, we don't have a curved arm to make that work for you." So it crossed them off my list. Made me kind of sad.
Mhm.
That probably would have been the one I would have gone for due to my body build. It fit pretty well for me. Oh well, could have, would have.
Yeah. What do you have, Ryan?
Hey, wait. Sheldon, look at Derek's comment. He's saying that you need to go into that business of putting subs into chairs. So there is a market. There is a market. So
just cut them open as soon as you get them and ship them out. Yeah, the chair that's on the far right, you could easily put driver. They're so thick on the sides. I'm sure you could put drivers on each side and then like a massive one in the back because it's like that wide.
Every seat he looked at, he was like, "How many subs can I fit in this?"
Exactly.
I think another surprise to me was, did you guys see the demonstration of that auto light rejection screen, the ALR screen in the
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
That was really cool. So Evan, I asked Evan to dim the lights and bring the lights up because it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's going on. How much is this super big projector that's brightness and how much is the screen? Well, he dimmed the light and the image stayed remarkably the same.
Well, okay, you remember what happened when he did
the first time he dimmed it? It was like some sort of setup. The screen all like bloomed up as he's bringing the lights up. It was like it all
was like sunrise.
I was like, do that again. So he did it again. He turned it off, the lights off, and then there was like a dimmer. The lights were on a dimmer. And as he brought the lights up, that screen stayed remarkably similar, even with the lights on. I was thinking, all right, that I've not really seen it. That's a black screen, I think, right? It's like a 1.4 black screen. We didn't see it without an image on it, but I was looking at the MWAVE page, and that's what it was describing it as.
No, I didn't know that.
So that was curious to see. I'd like to learn a little bit more about that because I thought that worked remarkably well.
Oh, Ray. Yeah, Sheldon was stripping down all the chairs. Yeah, that was.
I could see that.
Were there any disappointments, and we don't want to belabor this, but anything that you thought was like in the show or in the demos or anything that wasn't quite
I was
done better next year or was done better in previous years?
I was actually surprised that I would probably pick the Christie M4K and the JVC. There would be probably not too many instances where I would have picked the Barco over those two. But I don't know if anybody else feels differently about that or not. So for whatever reason, the priorities of picture, I was probably happier with those other higher end ones, especially the 900, of course. But I don't know.
I've missed some of that, Ryan. You were saying you Christie and JVC over the Barco. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my disappointments was that I learned that all the projector technologies, because they had basically every manufacturer represented, including one of the Chinese DLPs, the Zimi or something in that room, which was an interesting projector for $1,500. Really, it was pretty nice. All of them use PWM or have DLP flashing. So the only option for me is Epson at this point in time. Like, that's it. Epson.
And what if Epson goes to it? You're screwed.
Yeah. I remember we were watching, you were sitting next to me when we were watching that first half of Dune Part 2. And you're like, dude, my eyes are cooked already.
It happens pretty quick on some of those brighter ones with that PWM flashing. And like one of the rooms, remind me which one was in the Andy and Nick room where they were doing it. Was it a cheaper Christie or a cheaper Barco? I don't remember which one was in there. Like the $12,000 or $15,000 one.
It was the cheaper Christie. It was that 860A, I think.
That DLP rainbow machine that thing was doing, it was so strong that I couldn't even really look at it. It was like I needed to do this because it was driving me crazy. Yeah. Like if you dart your eyes, you can see rainbows, but that one was like so strong that it was just like looking over there, I was seeing rainbow smears. It was wild. Yeah. So that's never. I mean, that was one I was kind of curious about because it's not outlandish and it's so many lumens. It's 8,000 lumens, but after seeing it, it's like no way, not for me. Anyway, with my eyes.
Yeah, I only saw like a minute and a half with it, and I just sort of had that kind of reaction to it. But I didn't, like I said, I didn't have a chance to talk to either Andy or Nick about how the setup was on that because I know it was a fairly last second ad, and probably the ones they have least amount of experience with out of all the ones that were there. I don't even think it was advertised on the banner out front of the room. It wasn't even on there. So
No, but for what it's worth, the vendor came in and was trying to help calibrate it and stuff. So it wasn't like for lack of knowledge on the model, because they had the vendor there doing it as well.
okay, all right. So
Yeah.
so it just
And
does really large stuff. Okay.
Somehow I missed that completely, but I did have a little takeaway with the Sony, and there was I was expecting a lot more out of it in comparison to everything else, and it was probably my favorite.
Really,
Really?
even over the not over the cheaper DLPs, surely not.
I don't think I would take home
And
the
the
cheaper
JVC
deal.
X3 or whatever it is. I don't remember the exact model number, but
The
those
Sony?
yeah, those lower cost DLPs were
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
I don't know.
really-
The Sony just was so disappointing.
I'm
Like,
surprised.
every-
I don't know if I would go that
Not-
far. There's no way I would definitely take that Sony over, like Jonathan was saying. I would take it over the Christie. I would take it over that. What is it? It's basically just a rebadged BenQ, isn't it? The JVC.
Oh,
remote?
the JVC
is.
DLP. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Sony's
G3 or so.
this. What does Nick always say? Something really bad happens to the Sonys over time. Like
contrast degrades.
yeah,
But I don't know if it's happening with the newer models, but it is very much documented on the older models. Like they
I haven't-
supposedly Sony fixed that with the new.
Yeah, I had only heard good things recently about the panel degradation on those. As I think the one that they've been watching was the 380, of course. I mean, if it can't get it right on that one, then you're really in trouble. So.
I think time will tell. But I mean, I even got a text from one of those guys saying that they had measured like a 5-year-old Sony, and it was contrast was down to 300 to 1 range, like from its starting point of much thousands, many thousands to 1 ratio. So that's not great. Hopefully they got that fixed, but time will tell.
Yeah, I'll let somebody else take that bullet.
So just curious, and I know it's like out of our range, I assume, but how much are those black swans?
I think they're like $80,000, man. I think so, way out of my range, like
Like
Yeah.
delaying
laughably out of my range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually in that room. Did you guys see that? I'm not going to say it right because I don't know how to say it, but the Gman projector or whatnot, the one they were kind of saying has better color because it has three different lasers.
Yeah.
And
It had the widest color
Color
gamut of all of them,
Wait,
which
where
is
was it?
interesting.
in the projector
It's-
shootout,
Oh, I
it was
didn't
a $1,500 projector. It had
It also
Android.
has some limitations on where you could place it too, because you had to have it at the exact height. So they had it on this giant tower for people that weren't there, and so they had to like climb up on a chair to like block it and unblock it, because it had to be at the very top of the screen or very bottom of the screen because there's no height adjustment on the lens.
Oh,
And so that would be a showstopper for me because like
Well, it's a lifestyle
I need
projector.
flexibility.
It's meant to be like a
Yeah.
cube set down on a table or something, and you have an immediate picture. It auto focuses, it auto zooms, it has Android built in with a nice aluminum remote. It has speakers built in that are actually not bad, and it has a really, frankly, nice interscene contrast and a nice picture. Not great on-off contrast like it's DLP. But ANSI contrast is nice, and it threw a nice picture, and it was $1,500. I thought that was kind of a standout in there, actually, after they told me the price. I was thinking, wow. And he brought over the remote. He's like, look at this remote they're bundling with that. That's like way better than the remotes we're getting on our high-end players, and we don't have all those features.
I hate the JVC remote so much.
It barely works, the JVC remote.
Was that one you were just talking about, Jonathan? That was the one that also had some sort of autofocus built-in feature
Yes,
as well, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
you set it on the table and you push a button, and it's like and it does its thing, and it does it all. And I'm like, all right, does it do enough that you don't have to mess with it? And he's like, we're using it right now with the autofocus. Like, it does it. I mean, there's nothing to fix. And I'm thinking, like, all right, this all packaged up for $1,500. What? Hey, you got 3 different color lasers. JVC is still using just a blue laser. Like, what? Come on now, what's happening here?
Pressure, man.
What'd you guys think of the Mad VR? I spent way more time than I thought just staring at the comparisons between the soap opera, different levels of soap opera effect and none.
It takes a lot for me to not notice it anymore. Honestly.
Yeah, but here, obviously what stinks is though if you're panning or the the shaky cam. 24 frames is rough. I get it. And I know why Jonathan hates it. But then I also hate any kind of fake smoothness. It's like, is there any in between? I did feel like their lowest level, a couple of their lowest levels that they had it on, I think I could have done those. I've never said that before. Of course, like we're kind of talking about, it's kind of out of my price range, but at least I've seen something that has used smoothing now that I think I could actually live with. But
that's also eye dependent. I love what the Epson does with smoothing, like absolutely love it. And I've used that thing now for close to 2 years, and I've never, maybe I could count on 3 fingers, 3 times that I thought this might be doing something a little weird out of all the time that I've used that projector. And so like it works really well for me with Epson. Now I know everyone has a little different way they see. That's okay. I can't stand 24 frames per second. It's not good. My eyes don't like it.
You've got a faster brain/eye frame rate. I think that's why the PWM drives you nuts. That's my theory.
It's a theory. I don't know.
Or his retinas are this close to detaching. He just doesn't know it yet.
Fall right off.
Hanging on by a thread.
Like
no, I didn't mess. I wasn't looking at Mad VR specifically, but I will say it was being used in the Ascendo room. Again, I think it was you, Sheldon, I was talking to. Even with the more subtle stuff dialed in, I can see it right away. It doesn't necessarily bother me, but I can easily spot it, like on the Angry Birds clip that they were running. If whenever like a character's beak, if they turn their head really fast back and forth, or move their head up and down really quick, I could see warping happening to the rock background behind them around the beak, right? Like it's easy to spot that kind of stuff pretty quickly, right? So that's why I'm like, okay. 24 frames isn't smooth enough, but I can see every artifact under the sun when it's smoother. So I don't know. It's like I'm swapping one irritant for another.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I'm not sure really where I end up there, other than the fact that I have to pay more for the other irritant.
Yeah, that's how it is for me. It's not great one way, not great the other way. So you don't use smoothing on your Epson, Ryan?
I haven't used it that much yet, but I found that it's sort of material dependent. I'd probably say 60% of the time I leave it all off, and maybe 40% of the time I'm actually okay with it being on. It just depends on the movie, how often there's like lots of panning in a movie, right? Like if somebody's walking across the screen type stuff, doesn't bother me as much. But when there's like medium panning, like it's a directional style, right? Where like some some directors like to move their camera around a lot more than others. Some people like to keep the large static far away shots from the majority of their film. So it depends.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with Jonathan that the Epson definitely does it better than the JVC. That's for sure.
Isn't this the truth? This Spencer commented that the roof was going to cave in.
I actually thought that was a lot of fun, right? It's like they knocked less dust off the ceiling this year, so I assume that's because they got all cleaned out last year.
Yeah. It only has 1 year worth of dust.
Yes, exactly.
I was in the Dirac training room during whatever was going on next door. We all just kind of looked at the wall like all of a sudden there's like a train wreck next door. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, if it was the Mission Impossible clip, then that's exactly
it may have been.
That's what it was.
I was kind of laughing to somebody. I don't remember who it was at this point, but we were thinking, you know how like when you have real loud bass, how your walls and everything deteriorate, and it gets easier to make those bad sounds as things become loose, basically. I was thinking after this event, they're playing 140 dB at the JTR room, like they're going to bring in regular PA speakers, and it'll be like just a verbal, and there'll be things rattling on the wall. It's gotten so bad. Like,
that'll be the tipping point where something big falls over and they're going to think they've accomplished something.
JTR literally knocked a ceiling. I heard that, I didn't see it, but I heard that they knocked one of the lights. Like one of the lights came down during one of their demos outside the room, like right immediately outside the room. It crashed on the floor.
Oh God.
That goes straight into the marketing brochure, right?
Commercial center, and you're knocking the lights off the ceiling.
You hear what Jeff said he had in there? He was running multiple 60 amp lines,
and it wasn't enough. But I think it's because
well,
they didn't wire it right.
They did it wrong.
Yeah,
he was only getting 30 amp, and then he got it fixed to 60 amp.
I'm going to make a short on that. I recorded it because Jeff told me, he said, pulled me aside and pulled me in there. he had to call because they were killing the power. They were blowing the circuits. He had to call. They ran 2 giant. Is it 60 amp or 30 amp? I don't remember. 220 volt. I think it was 60 amp. 2 of them.
The wires sure look like.
And they were just hanging out of they were coming from somewhere up in the abyss above. I mean, you couldn't even tell where it was sourcing from in the thing. And they were running it down into his room. And they're like these giant cables, right? And I was thinking, you go to Exponent show, you go to these different shows, and they got these stupid gimmicky giant power cables that are coming out of the back of an amp, and it's plugging right into the 15 amp circuit on the wall.
Yeah.
That's the typical thing you see. This is the real deal when JTR is like blowing the stuff with those big, huge cables. They got multiple 20,000 watt amps or whatever in there. It's wild. Pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah. 260 amp, Evan says.
Those drops are not cheap sometimes.
That Scott Newby already posted a video about the power cables.
Oh, there you go. So go watch that. It's pretty fun. So do you guys think you'll make any changes after this experience? I know Tim is. He's already got some changes hooked up.
I'll be perfectly honest. I'm so new in my room. I've got so much that I want to dial in still. I need to clear that stuff first. So that can probably stave off any of the FOMO I was getting from the show.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely that stupid JVC in 900 and then that Christie M4K, both of those left sort of like haunting me a little bit. Who
was saying that? Someone's saying once you see a projector, like it raises that tier and you can never unsee it. Was that you, Ryan, saying that? Or someone told me that this weekend, and I was thinking the same thing. After that 900, it's kind of like, wow.
I don't know if I said that to you, but I know I've said it to
you.
Thought it.
But
I need to let the wallet heal a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
funny.
I did see on the forum marketplace used NZ9 for 11 grand today, and I was like,
Yeah. I mean,
don't do it.
Patience, man. Patience. That's how you save $1 or $2.
Yeah.
11 grand is really not.
And that's chipped, and that's PayPal fees, everything included. 11 grand.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Except for your NZ7 has dropped to. It's like at one point, if it was that price, you could have almost laterally moved, but not now.
Yeah.
What about any demo clips that you think you saw that you would add to your rotation? What was your favorite demo clip in the different rooms, for instance? Like anything you hadn't seen before, or was it all kind of stuff you've heard of?
Like I said, mine was the train. I'd only seen it in the theater, so that's probably why it was way better, even though it was a Dolby theater with the right channel completely out. I hardly ever go to the movies, and every time I do, it's like something is completely jacked up. So,
and that's the good theaters, man. You should go to a bad theater. You're going to be way more upset.
Yeah, this was the, that
was the Dolby theater.
Yeah, out in Olathe. Yeah, the AMC 30 or whatever, Studio 30, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was my favorite demo. How about you, Jonathan?
Jeff says the Dr. Strange put in his JVC room was nice. I kind of agree with that. Like the effects of like I don't know, those little portal things that they're making and the flares that Dr. Strange has is really bright and vibrant and like very stark contrast. That was really cool.
Oh, on the 900?
Yeah, they ran that clip last year, but it looked better this year. And I think that was also partly room dependent. I swear the room was hurting the contrast a little bit more last year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the Spider-Man clip, I think I've only experienced that once before at somebody's room. That was really impressive in the Gman room, and in the JTR room where I heard it. What is it? The plane scene. I can't even think of the name right now. Where the fighter pilots are coming there, going in and doing the bombing. That one is fantastic in all the rooms I heard it in. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Which one?
Unbroken. It came to me.
Oh, Unbroken. Yeah, that's a
I like that one.
Clip.
Yeah, I mean those are probably my two favorite clips of the rooms that I saw. The Prometheus clip in the Gman.
Oh man,
I don't know how to say that. Say it for me, somebody, so I'm not mispronouncing
Prometheus?
it.
No, Gman.
Gman.
Oh,
the Prometheus clip.
Gman.
That projector was on point in that room on that particular clip.
Honestly, that was the most impressive, including the NZ900 on that smaller 1.3 gain screen. But the Christie on that 220 inch on that Prometheus clip was the most impressive thing I saw all weekend. That was amazing.
I was getting a little envious when I was thinking like, this is a 220-inch screen, and I know I haven't been to Ryan's house yet, but I know he just installed a 200-inch screen, and this, like, come on now, this isn't for mortal people. What's going on?
Yeah, that's gonna be amazing.
Ryan, we're all looking forward to
Mine's taller, not as wide.
Is that the projector that Ryan? Well, that's not what he has, right?
No. I have not spent
that
60,000.
screen. He's got a 200-inch screen.
No, I'm talking about the other Ryan.
Oh yeah, no, he's got the Griffin.
The Griffin, yeah.
Yeah,
Which is,
so it's basically that. It shares a lot of the qualities of that projector, but it's a true native 4K. The other one's a pixel shifter. The Prometheus projector, that's a pixel shifter.
so the Griffin is better.
Yeah,
This is gonna be fun.
but not like considerably better. It's
Right.
a little bit better. It's
Yeah,
a little
I mean,
bit.
how much better can you get than what that looked like? That was awesome.
Well, the Eclipse is out there.
Yeah.
I haven't yet seen an Eclipse. Have any of you guys seen an Eclipse?
Have not yet.
I've heard that's the only way you can get close to OLED on projectors.
Well, supposedly, what I read is it's the best display in the world. I mean, maybe I'm getting sucked into the marketing. I'm sure I am, but like
I
better
know
than
it's color
OLED.
volume.
If you have a completely darkened room, it's the best image you can have from anything.
Yeah, I know its color volume is better than most OLEDs. Like I thought.
Man, I'd have to question that, and I'll tell you why. You
Okay.
think about an OLED; they're coming up on 1,000 nits at this point, and you got perfect black. So you put an OLED in a room like that. That Eclipse isn't going to get 1,000 nits.
Well,
So-
yeah, but if you had 1,000 nits at that size, wouldn't you just like go blind? I mean, do you
See,
you
that's
don't-
just
No,
it.
that's
You
not how it
can
works.
get really high. Like there's some people who just for fun crank that thing up to 300, even 500 nits, right? And it just depends on your screen size and how blacked out you can make the room, all that stuff. But yeah, to
But
Sheldon's
not entirely, because on a projector, any projector, even the Eclipse, whatever, as you start increasing that brightness, that's all getting reflected back to a degree on the screen, and it's not on an OLED. It's not coming back in the
Right.
same way.
but mostly true. You will get some like reflectance type anomalies in some ways, though, I would think. Anyway.
we'll probably never get to see one. So
Oh, we will.
Well, Art has his, and he's invited people out for those demos. I'm gonna try to hit his.
Yeah,
next
he
session.
invited me, and I mean, I
What does he have?
could not make it work.
he's
He has
got the Eclipse.
Oh,
That's the thread I'm talking about. Yeah. Where is he? What part of the country?
I think he's up in Chicago area, like
I thought.
somewhere up there. I'm not sure exactly where.
Oh, I'd be in for that for sure.
But no, 1,000 nits at like say 170 inches or something like that. That, not gonna lie, sounds a little painful.
Yet to be seen.
did you go outside today?
Look at Tim.
Yes,
It's
and
like,
you want to know what? I squint way easier than when I was younger. I put on.
oh,
my
I'm like a
sunglasses way
vampire. I have
faster.
to have the shades on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm with you.
Okay. Well
saying.
then.
1,000 nits is nothing compared to outside. So, just
Somebody's giving you a little prop there, saying your Epson looked great at your house there.
but the one at your house was horrible. So
Jonathan sucks.
Ryan's good. Jonathan's bad.
Scott didn't say that about mine. Come on now.
Oh, maybe I was reading in between the lines. My bad. He called his out by name.
This is I'm still so far back, I think, in the comments. I think this is in regards to the Black Swans. So maybe it's 80,000 for 2 or 35.
Chump change.
Okay.
It's a rounding error.
They're bumping it up to 80 for both when it's 35 for one. What's going on with that? 35 for one, but if you buy both, it's 80.
I'm trying to catch in the comments. I'm sorry here. Let me. So all right. So there was 6 home theater rooms.
There's Ian.
What'd you think? Like, what was your opinion of them? There was the JTR Ascendo. There was the Gman. There was the RBH. There was SVS. There was Martin Logan. Is that it? Is that the 6?
So SVS, you guys know Scotty from Nebraska.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Oh yeah. So he was in there. I was talking to him a bit before I listened to the SVS demo, and he was like, he goes, yeah, the SVS guy was talking to some people saying, yeah, with these new towers, you don't even need subs. And Scotty was like, what are you saying? You know? So then, ironically, I'm not using that word correctly enough. Later, when I was listening to the demo, there is no way the subs are on, no way, and it was very underwhelming because of that. Because Tim went later and said it sounded good, and so I don't know if he was like showing somebody what it was like without the subs and then left them off and forgot. I should have gone back and listened again, but I never had the chance to. But definitely when I was in there, there's no way that the subs were going.
So I had an interesting experience in the SVS room too. When I was in there, they handed the remote to someone, or at least took a request from someone, and they put on some music that wasn't good. Like, it wasn't a good recording. It didn't sound good. Like, that's a bad way to demo your room. And so the problem with that, of course, is if someone else who doesn't know that this is a user request comes into the room and hears that, and like, then they're like, disparage your speakers. I was in the SVS room last year and really enjoyed it, but this year, because of that, it kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't impressed with what I heard, but I know it was probably the source track. So that, to your point earlier, where you're saying, JTR just kind of lets it all hang out and lets you do what you want. Sometimes that's good. It shows confidence in your product, but it may not be the best example if you have limited time with your guests coming in and out, and they may not know what's playing. Like, there's that little balance to.
It's tough because you don't want to play Keith Don't Go every time either, or what, So yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Talk to each system. You guys, what do you think of the RBH system?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I saw that you got to see the Godzilla demo in there. So that was amazing to see that you kept your eyes open.
Which Godzilla?
The -1.
Which clip did they play?
He was with the boats.
Back in the boat.
The boats. That's the one I picked for one of my demos.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie. I'm not a Godzilla fan. Tim said he made a bargain with me back in like February.
Godzilla.
Here's the thing. Godzilla -1 is a family drama movie that happens to have Godzilla in it.
Exactly.
I would be surprised if it didn't appeal to you from that standpoint. If you like family relationships, I would be surprised if you didn't like the movie.
Coming from you, he might hear you. I've told him all of this multiple times since the movie came out. So
you failed on your bargain, Tim. You had to have your room finished by June, and I was coming over to watch it. And here we are. Like, got 4 more days or whatever it is.
Still June.
Yeah. So the RBH room to me sounded good, but I felt like, and Sheldon, I'll be curious on your perspective of this because it's just one opinion. I felt like RBH was kind of playing their speakers at a level where they couldn't get much louder. To me, I feel like I've been around audio enough at this point that I can kind of tell when speakers start sounding burdened or a little bit like kind of they're at their limits. And I felt like there was a little bit of that with the RBH room, like you turn it up 3 dB more and you might not like what you hear type situation.
I felt the exact same way, but I also felt the exact same way in the Martin Logan. There was and it sounded really good, but I felt like maybe go back a couple dBs, or they could not have gone up. Same thing, because they did an Atmos demo in there too. Did you listen to that
in the Martin Logan room? I should probably just be silent on that one because that's not my favorite style speaker. It's not my favorite style sound. Like,
you have to be in the middle, or yeah. Like that's not my favorite room. One person's opinion. Yeah, no, I agree with RBH, and I thought the same thing about Martin Logan. They both sounded good, but it felt like it was kind of at the edge of,
That was the room that I probably spent the least amount of time in, was the Martin Logan. Although the Martin Logans that were in the room that had like 4 different speakers kind of set up in a line, I like the Martin Logans there a lot.
So in the RBH room, they were alternating between surround sound and the big setup with the nice overhead, the rack system and everything for the Atmos and whatnot, and just 2-channel stuff over on the corner, which they had a couple different speakers set up and they'd kind of cycle back and forth. And I felt the same thing with that 2-channel stuff. Like, they were playing it without subs. It's the same thing we had talked about in the SVS room. Like, you don't need subs for these. Yeah, you do, because they're struggling. And if you don't know they're struggling, it's because you haven't probably spent enough time with audio to know that, like, sealed subs, ported subs, they start sounding different when they're right before their levels of kind of like giving up. and we were at those levels. They were at those levels. I bet anything on it. So
Yeah.
like they're trying to take it to the brink in those big rooms, trying to make it have a nice full sound, but they're revealing their cards, in my opinion. That's not the right way to do it.
And Derek kind of reminded me too. Derek said the overhead speakers seemed strange, and I think that was true. That when there was something big overhead, I definitely felt that even more. But.
And so, Chirpy, you said that you really liked the Ascendo room, if I recall correctly. That was one of your top 3. The Ascendo room was the one with the Angry Birds beginning.
So yeah, strangely enough, like one of the things that I sort of dial into and really like, it's not super deep bass sometimes, which I love that too, but it's lower mid bass, and it had like a warm lower mid bass that I really enjoyed. It was especially obvious, I think, on the let's see here, what was the movie? It's the remake of A Star Is Born, and I can't remember now. Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper. Come on, Ryan.
A Star Is Born.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then why am I overthinking this?
You're smarter than you think you are.
Not likely. So, let's see. Yeah, it has a really like percussive oomph to it without sounding tubby, right? So, and it's a really, really narrow window where it goes from sounding too thin to sounding just right to sounding too muddy. And that was one of the reasons why I really enjoyed having that one over. So
I agree. I was very impressed with that room. The Top Gun demo was fantastic, which that demo is always fantastic. But in that room, it was even better than some rooms I've been in. But yeah, I like that room a lot. It was very clean. But they also weren't running it at reference. It was probably like -5 or so.
And I think they even admitted that. I think they said something along the lines of, we're going to play these, at a little bit more, real world listening volume levels, which I don't think it was a capability issue. I think it's partly because of the size of the room and how close maybe the front row is to the speakers kind of thing, where if you have a little bit more separation and distance in a larger room, it makes reference levels feel a little bit less beat you up, I think, for me. I don't know how everybody else's ears are, but the smaller the space gets, reference just sounds louder to me, even at the same levels.
Yeah. I think, that's kind of a fact almost, right? I don't know if it's like scientifically proven, but we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, there's that different standards reference for different room sizes, like based on cubic feet. They have that kind of thing exists. Desert Dome's always championing that kind of idea.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the Ascendo room was a little tame. I would like to have it a little louder, and I respect what Ryan's saying, that it was kind of a nice little break. I also thought the dialogue was a little over EQ'd, perhaps, but that might just be my opinion or my seat or whatnot. But that was my takeaway. It's hard sometimes to determine whether it's an over EQ or whether it's a little bit of a burden that you're hearing somewhere. So I'm not sure which one that was, without more time in there and maybe more more listening time. But
Raymond saying that they did a sales pitch. I didn't hear it. I went in there twice for the full demo. I don't think I heard a sales pitch either time.
They actually had the shortest sales pitch out of all the rooms I was in. I mean, well, they had the little advertisements that played, I think.
Oh, at the very beginning.
It looked great. I thought, the beginning.
Yeah, and it was only, I think it was only like 2 or 3 minutes. Some of the other rooms, it was almost half sales pitch and half demos.
RBH had those custom demos too.
Oh, he's talking about RBH.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right. And that's fine. I mean, people can choose how much focus they want to put on things, because sometimes people are like, what the heck am I even listening to, right?
Yeah.
So there's that too. And some people walk into the show and they already know every little detail about the gear that's there, and other people are like, "Oh, hey, I'm wandering off the street.
I've never heard of this company."
Right? Yeah. So there's a pretty big range you're appealing to there.
Yeah.
So,
Jonathan, what did you think of the Gramani room day 2 versus day 1?
I was more impressed with it day 2 than day 1. Day 1, like when they played some of the clips,
You're in a different row too, right? From the back.
Day 1, I was in the back row middle, and day 2, I was in the front row middle left. And or day 2, I was in the front row middle left. I thought that whatever they had changed, and he said they'd made some changes overnight, like I think Tim had mentioned, they made changes each night because they had got customer feedback. They'd got some more time with the room. They just went in and tailored it a little bit more. So each day it would have got better. Day 2 is Sunday was really nice in the Gramani room. I thought.
Yeah, be careful when you say day 1, day 2 like that, because that's technically day 2, day
You're
3.
right. Sunday is
Yeah.
the day
Saturday,
that-
Saturday, Sunday.
Saturday I was a little when I'm being hypercritical here. Let's be straight. Like these are all excellent rooms. There wasn't very much to be critical about in Sunday, in my opinion, in the Gramani room. It sounded good. On Saturday, I just kind of thought, like Sheldon and I talked about this a little bit offline, not right before this podcast, but there's an aspect of this that you can't really unwind, or it's hard to unwind. And when you go into these rooms and you think like, I'd rather watch this in my own home theater than here, that's hard to like disconnect from, because we know these clips. For the most part, we know all the clips they're playing. So to me, and why I said I liked the JTR room the best, like this is going to sound prideful and I'm not meaning it to be there, but this is just the fact of the matter. And there's home field advantage that weighs in, and familiarity and like whatever, my own personal preferences that all weigh in, like fully understand and fully hear that. The only room that I thought was on the same tier is like, and I haven't been to Ryan's room yet, but on the same tier as Sheldon's room, as far as like I've been in both these rooms, I love those rooms, was the JTR room. Like here's that tier, and here's Sheldon's and my room, and the other ones, for one reason or the other, in my opinion, were one tier down. Now, they don't have as much time to set up. We've perfected our rooms for a long time, like personal preferences being what they are as far as.
And you're talking just sound, and you're talking just sound, right?
I'm talking about like, would I rather watch a movie here or at my place type thing?
Right.
Like
overall,
You are in a conference room though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All those things considered. I'm just saying it's kind of hard to unwind that in my mind.
But that's what's so great about the hobby is we can make our rooms, anyone can make their rooms to sound and feel, which is very important to me.
Feel is extremely.
Sound and feel exactly how you want.
Yes.
And I can't get that anywhere else.
Yes.
And some people may hate it, and some people may love it. Some people may hate it. But like, that's what I love is like, I don't have to spend $1 million bajillion dollars to get what I want, and it doesn't exist hardly anywhere else, because who's putting bike inner tubes underneath their seats and all the stuff you're doing? That's what's so cool about the hobby is you can, and for you people, like you're using no room EQ, just make sure the speakers are time aligned and
dialing in, like you said, that tactile is so important, because we have that tactile dialed in exactly like we like it, and ours are not even the same. You like a different level of tactile than I do, but yet it's dialed into our taste. And you can't, let's say, I mean, just be straightforward. In a conference room, you're not getting any tactile off the seats. There's no tactile transducers. There's no near field subs. That is such a large element of the experience to me that it's hard to disconnect that. Even in the JTR room, you're getting these waves of just crushing bass. In the Ascendo room, I felt waves of bass coming off their, how many they had, like 14, 16s or something like that in the Ascendo room. It was a lot.
Did they really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And in the Gman room, they had quite a few subs too. Like you feel the bass. And if you're not used to like near field and tactile and stuff, I'm sure it was like, holy smokes, this is awesome. But we've been in this hobby long enough that we kind of gone to a next level, and that's almost impossible, if not impossible, to recreate in a convention center. So there's that.
To back that up a little bit, on the Gramani room, when we watched the Fury demo, you had that chest impact and stuff, but you're sitting on a concrete floor, and we're used to having near fields to overcome that. Where like, the bass impact on your chest, so that mid-range stuff was great, but like when your feet's on the floor, you're just feeling it's just dead. It's hard to gain back that stuff that we have at our houses.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, we're not discounting these systems at all. These are all like, I'm saying especially like the top 3 or 4 of those things are grade A systems.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic. Like fantastic.
Yeah.
But they're not personal preference dialed in. That's probably the difference.
I'm just saying this is a good thing. Like anybody is capable of making their rooms their favorite place to watch a movie. That's what's really cool.
Agreed.
Well, that, and it's more fun than a lot of other hi-fi shows too, right? It's like, are you kidding me? Not to like, toss everybody else under the bus kind of thing, but there's a sameness that happens over and over again at a lot of those shows.
They're all playing the same CDs almost.
Well, which vendor was it that took sort of a quick little pot shot that said we're going to play some clips that aren't? I think again it might have been the Ascendo room as part of their little introductory clip. We're going to play some clips for you that you don't normally see or hear at a hi-fi show, and then they cut away to like some stereo speakers playing some soft jazz for 2 seconds, and then went right back to their clips again, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
fun little pot.
Hey, Anthony asked if we know how much the projector costs in the Gman room. Anybody know?
60.
I don't.
It's well, no.
It's under 100K, right?
So I shouldn't speak out of turn. It's roughly 60-ish without lens. With lens, it's higher, and then take into the account that go shopping for a deal kind of stuff, right?
Ian says he believes it was 80K. That sounds about right. I think that's what I was hearing.
I was quoted a price lower than that, and that's all I'm going to say.
Gotcha.
I'll buy it for $1.
All right. So next question then. What do you think of the comparison rooms, plural? Did I miss? There was a Spotify versus Tidal room that I didn't. I mean, according to the MWAVE thing, I didn't even see it. Maybe I missed it. The other one I do know about was the speakers and subs comparison room.
And then Martin Logan projector room.
They had they had clips, and they had 2 different versions of clips, and they had a focal speaker, and then they had 2 stacks of SVS subs, PB16s maybe on the sides versus a clip 16 in the middle. Did you guys get
yes, you did miss it.
I would have liked to see that. I mean, I already kind of know where I would fall on that from my own testing, but it would have been fun to see it happening. What do you think of the comparison rooms? Like the projector room we already kind of talked about. That was fantastic. They did a great job. If you were in the market to buy a projector, how much better could it be to see those like all like anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 projectors and have the remote in hand, see everything?
The projector room really made me happy because the JVC was like the higher end model for the room kind of thing, and it was the one that I had just bought, so it made me feel very good. But then I went in the room next door, like right after the very first time I came in there. I went there just to kind of see a little bit, and I went over to the JVC 900 room. Like, oh, that was great. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I got to check a lot of that too, because Tim's been like on the market, like trying to figure out what his price point is, feeling like maybe 3 to 5K is something I'm comfortable spending. And he's been on the market trying to buy a new or used, like be reasonable, right? That was the goal. And then like he bought an NP5 the week before MWAVE, something like that.
Exactly a week. I got it the Friday before.
And super good match for you, like fantastic. 120 hertz for gaming, JVC blacks, which you really appreciate, like a good match for Tim and his wife Crystal. And then I get a text on Friday night, like maybe we made a mistake. Maybe
There's no way. There's no way.
900.
Yeah,
from Tim.
There's no way
to call that a mistake, though, right?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of speaking to how good that NZ900 looked. I think is all.
Hey, you guys see what Ian just put? The results for the bitrate comparison. I assume he's talking about the Spotify versus Tidal. Bitrate most were confusing the high and low rates.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
So Doug and I did that in his room years ago, and it was like we were going back.
You and I did that in your room one time with Spotify, Google, and Tidal. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so it's happened 2 times to me because the same thing happened to Doug and I. Yeah, I remember the time we were doing that over here. Yeah, we had like some Dream Theater and other stuff going. Yep. And it felt like we could tell the difference pretty easily until we did it blind.
Yeah.
Is that not what you remember, Tim?
Yeah, I think that's our results too.
Yeah, as soon as it was blind, it was like, oh, wait a minute.
There's no chance. Yeah.
Now, I mean, people just say, oh, you guys' ears suck, and they're probably not wrong. But
no. They are completely correct.
Now, the master makes a way bigger difference above a certain bit rate than anything else, right?
Yeah.
Honestly. It's like,
speaking of that, what'd you think of the Apple TV thing, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to a little bit earlier. I don't think that's the right place. I'm color me skeptical from the very beginning, first off, but I don't think that's the right place to like demo that. It's going to be super hard to do so with all the bass bleed, with all the people coming in and out. with content you're
So much
not.
time in between. Listen to this one, and it was like a minute and a half later. All right, we're ready.
And then we
listen
had
to
an
this.
ad. That didn't
Unplug
help.
it, YouTube ad for 30 seconds or even 60 seconds, and then it plugs
Yeah.
back in. I'm sorry about the ads, guys. And then you're supposed to listen. It's impossible to test that.
And you
I
can't have a different resolution on the display for
It did seem
one.
like that, didn't it? I don't want to call
Yeah.
foul, but it did seem like there was
It 100%
on the control
was.
model, the standard Apple TV. It seemed like it was running at a lower bit rate
Yeah.
for the video, which then makes you wonder if the audio is different. Was that intentional, or was it just that their Wi-Fi had not? You know how
Yeah.
sometimes YouTube's like spins up to a higher detail. I'm going to give them the
Mhm.
benefit of the doubt and say that they're not. I don't know that they're.
I don't think they
That
were
was-
doing anything nefarious or anything.
It was a little odd.
I don't either. But even if they sounded, even if it was the same quality original of clip, when you're watching a video that's HD, it's gonna, your ears are gonna think it sounds better than when you're watching one that's like
I think
Huh.
you're right.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
The biggest problem was there's no way to do it in that environment, and you would have to have immediate switching, not just fast switching, immediate switching, and there wasn't.
Call me weird, but isn't that something you can just measure?
You should be able to measure, like play track 2 from the OmniMic CD and look at the frequency response and let's see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Your
Or
favorite
distortion
track.
plots, you know.
He showed us
distortion plots.
like the measurement of the noise, similar to like measurements you would see on Audio Science Review,
Yeah.
But like, is that stuff audible? I don't know.
I have my suspicions, but I don't want to be too harsh without having more like time
Yeah,
in it. I want to try to have open mind with it.
for sure.
And see, I think it would make a bigger difference on other things outside of the Apple TV, because the Apple TV is already only like 4 watts, and you're taking like $100 streaming box, and now you're making it almost $1,000.
So
Like,
he
what-
did say, I
what
don't
are we
know if
doing?
you were in there during the time, but he did say it's not the main power supply that they're fixing. It's the different secondary boards that are feeding it and stuff, the circuitry on the
Mhm.
secondary boards that are dirtier than the main power supply that he's cleaning up. And he's not only doing it in that, he's also doing it in the turn-off unit
Yeah.
And-
See, I think
and-
it would have a bigger impact on like that.
along the whole chain. But the question that I would have, and again, like I would have liked to have more time in a better environment to test, but it's a digital signal, so it's sending bit stream potentially, or Dolby Mat, if you will, to the receiver. So it should just be digital, and digital is reading in ones and zeros, not analog. So there shouldn't be any, like, if it's getting it, it's getting it. And then, like, what are we doing here? That's what I don't know. The suspicious part of me says I don't know what we're doing, but I'll try to keep open mind on that.
Yeah.
Scrolling down in the comments here, still way behind.
It's all right.
Yours not just pop up, just go automatically? Is
No,
it?
mine aren't. I could
Oh.
click that, but I'd miss everything I haven't read, I guess.
Huh.
Okay, so we didn't talk about the speakers that were compared. The Focal, the Eclipse, the Martin Logan, the subs. What did you think of that?
The Martin Logans in there, I liked a lot, like extremely a lot. I liked them all.
Yeah, those
Maybe more than
towers,
that
those
makes
Martin Logan towers.
What model were they?
I don't know. They're black with the
Ones
ribbon
that
tweeter at
Ryan
the top.
had? Was it the same ones that Ryan had?
Back that he got.
I don't think so.
Weren't they Renaissance or something like that? Is that right? I don't
I'm
know.
gonna try
I'm
to
not
find
familiar
out.
with mine.
F200. All right.
Oh, you're talking. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Martin Logan Room for some reason. My brain
Yeah.
switched gears. But you're talking
No,
about. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, those black
Those
ones.
F200s they had last year in a full surround system at MWAVE, and they're nice speakers. I like the way they sound too. They were
Those-
my favorite of the room.
Yeah, they did. They did well with the audience last year.
Hmm.
Well, I wasn't here last year, so I liked them this year.
They were the ones that they were using the auto EQ comparison in the previous year. So like every speaker at the bed layer was those Martin Logan F200s, and then they had 4 different processors or whatever they were comparing.
I just looked them up. They're kind of pricey. They're $27.50 on what is this? Crutchfield. It's the first thing I saw.
Is that an each or pair?
Each.
Okay. Yeah, Crutchfield usually does each. You're right.
They're packaged very well because we got to box them back up last year, and they were like, you know how sometimes like with like an Apple product, for instance, you get it in a real nice packaging and it kind of elevates your opinion of something right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those F200s are that way too, where they're
Can't
packaging.
help it. I appreciate that. I love good packaging.
Yeah.
I'm dumb that way. I'm an
They know
aesthetics
how to
guy.
get us. Otherwise, everything else in that room, it was fine. Like it was okay.
Well, this is interesting. I'm just coming up to this comment late to the game as usual. Raymond says that that he liked Saturday better than Sunday in the
Oh, the
Gman
Gman
room.
room.
I'm sure. Yeah, that wasn't my opinion, but I know Kevin echoed that too, and he's just because they toned the bass down on Sunday.
I think I liked it a little bit more Saturday as well.
You did as well?
Yeah.
I thought the Fury clip matched up to Saturday, and the others needed more bass.
Yeah.
Look at this comment. Get out of here, Ian. Not enough bass in the JTR room.
Troll.
So yeah, this Giamatti said that Giamatti, I can't say it, said that he felt the room was only 85% calibrated in his opinion, even on Sunday.
We're gonna get this name down by the end of this podcast. I think we mispronounced it every way possible. So
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the projector technology that won you over? Anything like did you like any of the DLPs?
No.
Even the high dollar ones?
Yes.
What amazed me the most was actually getting to see the tone mapping available between the Sony and the JVC, and that made a bigger difference than I suspected. The tone mapping thing is what really was like, oh, this is what really separates them all. Yeah, because even on stuff that even on bright scenes, there were things that the JVC's tone mapping was doing that was just more impressive than what Sony was doing. And then like the Epson without the tone mapping was still kind of beating this Sony on those brighter clips, because the Sony's supposed to be the brightest one out of those three, and it never looked brighter, even when it technically was. And even like Nick was pointing out, like as you're looking here, this is measurably brighter, but you can see more on both the Epson and the JVC just because of the way that they're tone mapping and or just how the Epson works.
Agreed. All right, let's talk a little bit about our VIP host experience. Tim, sorry to exclude you for a minute, but you can weigh in if you want. Carp and Ryan, Sheldon, anything that you guys would share about your tours? Was there anything went really well, didn't go very well?
Anybody show up really, really early, Carp?
No, not like Steven. I didn't have a 7:15 guest.
That was crazy.
No, it was great. Everybody was really friendly. Just a lot of good conversations. I didn't get through as many clips as I thought I would, just because they're, I've probably spent too much of my time trying to talk people into getting more tactile into their systems.
Did you
that's what it always turns into. I have to just chill with that. I'm like a preacher when people come into my room about, you gotta have the tactile.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I one thing I said to my guests is I said, okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to be presented with a bunch of dogmas between now and Sunday, and it's not that any of these people are lying to you or trying to sell, tell you something, like slide something past you or something. That's actually what they believe. It's just like everybody's out there with these different priorities. Like this is going to be the thing that makes the experience extra great for you, right? But that's human nature, and that happens. That's not just an audio thing. That's everyday life. So yeah, like we all accidentally turn, a little bit evangelical for certain aspects of the hobby. We just don't realize it until it's too late, and they're sort of staring at us funny.
Yeah. But I did get a lot of positive feedback on my little demo, where I put him in the main seat and independently toggled the mute on and off so they could feel just the near field 24. I mean, just the driver in the back of the chair, just the hover easy underneath, and so I had a lot of feedback after that of people liking one. Like one guy is going to do the seat back one, and other people are going to do the hover, and other people just liked near field, and other people just thought I was crazy. So I thought that was I think I'm going to keep that in and keep doing that, but maybe just chill a little bit. I felt when the day was over, I was like, man, I feel like I was trying to talk people into getting tactile stuff. I didn't mean to. It just kind of turned into that. But But yeah, great conversations, great people. You know, some of the groups I could have just kept talking to, but it was time for the other group to start. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Super tiring. We talked about this. When it got to around 8:30, 8:45, I felt like the most tired I've ever been in my life. Like I was too tired to sleep. I couldn't move. I just like, yeah, it just hit me all at once. You know, you're running on adrenaline all day and then boom. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Being tired was actually a big problem for me. I did my best. I feel like I did okay during the day, trying to not look like I was this close to just like narcolepsy falling on my face and just napping because I was getting my room ready in time, right? And it was like I want to say probably 4 or 5 days in a row. You know, I would work until like 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I'd wake up and do my regular job. And then around 6 o'clock p.m., I'd work on the room again until 3 or 4 in the morning. And then the night before the tours, I didn't go to bed. I just went straight through. And so I was mostly, you remember that. I was on the phone with you, Jonathan, at like 2:30 in the morning. You were like,
I texted you
what
like,
the heck did Nick do to my Mad VR? That, gosh darn it, I don't know what he did. So I got it to a point where I was mostly happy. Like I felt like it was what was the term I was using? I was like, I think I said I've got it at minimum viable product level right now. I will not be embarrassed if I showed this off, right? So so I went through the whole thing. And the way I did it was I sort of took it the approach of kind of like, if you know, I'll call it like a wine tasting kind of thing, where I didn't just like play like explosion after explosion after explosion kind of thing. I would start with like 2 or 3 songs and of different types. Like, all right, I'm going to do one that's in stereo, that's up mixed this time. I'm going to play literally a stereo YouTube clip that's 192 kilobytes that's up mixed. I'm going to play an actual Atmos track that's in that's music. Then we're going to head over to some demo stuff. One of them is going to be a 5.1. One of them is going to be an Atmos. So, and then I broke it into a round 1, round 2, round 3. And then what would happen is once we got done with one group of clips, then the back row would go to the middle row go to the front row goes to the back, right? And so that way everybody gets an idea of like field of view, what they're comfortable with. Most people are like, back row is actually pretty great. Middle rows, pretty well, probably the most balanced of everything, and also screen's kind of big but impactful. Front row, holy crap, that's too big. The kids will definitely fight over sitting in this row, that kind of thing, right? So but everybody that came through was really, really nice. Had people that came from just absolutely flattering distances. I had somebody from let's see here, Puerto Rico. I had somebody from the UK, somebody from Brazil, and they were all one gentleman brought his son, and he was one of my favorite guests of the whole day. He was really respectful, had a really fun, inquisitive mind about him. Just made me super happy to see somebody that age running around in the world. And so overall, it was a really, really, really positive experience. And it was also my first chance of even, you know, just getting to see what the system, you know, was capable of through somebody else's eyes. Because for whatever reasons, like you dial it in for yourself, but the second somebody else is in the room, you sort of look at it and think about it just a little bit differently. I don't know what it is psychologically, but you start looking at other things. Ah, yes, Henry. Awesome. And thank you so much. Yeah, it was awesome meeting you. And I'm sorry I missed you guys at the show. I think you were there on Saturday. I wasn't able to make it to MWAVE on Saturday. I had a family reunion that kept me from the show. I wasn't able to show up until like 4:30, 5 o'clock on Saturday. And then I was able to hang out for the VIP dinner and then the Dune Part 2 thing in the JTR room. But then the whole demo thing, it went pretty well. The one thing that I discovered after the fact that drove me crazy when I discovered it was my left subwoofer on the front wall was ever so slightly touching the 2x4 framing on one side of the wall,
shaking the screen.
And it was shaking it more unduly than it needed to. Plus the subs, I hadn't pushed them as far back as they could go, so they're closer to the screen than they needed to. So the screen flap, it's still there, but it's probably like 70% less than what it was. So now I'm gonna try to go back in there and calibrate the bass a lot hotter, with because it was bothering me that there was that much flapping going on. So just little things like that where you discover things along the way. You can't help it.
Sure. And your room was put together just right at the wire, so you didn't have a chance to really like vet all that out.
So I was able to vet some things as I was building it, but even shoot, man, even you can even have the system for a while and then just for some reason on of all days, why did this happen, right? And you've got one of those stories. You'll get to that.
I was going to ask about it.
So, but thankfully, when it came to actual like hiccups, technically, I don't think I had any. I think I had one or two situations where you know, it took a little while for the pre-pro to lock onto a signal, but going by what I saw at MWAVE, that is not a me issue. That's just the fact that a few of these pre-pros just aren't that fast on grabbing onto some things. And I think
on Storm.
Yeah.
Especially.
And you and I think have even talked about that, Jonathan, where it's kind of surprising that a lot of the higher end models can't, you know, lock into a signal as quickly as, you know, some of the more mainstream brands, especially when you're hopping back and forth between stereo and Atmos. Yeah.
Or just plain Atmos, really. Every time, we'll just say it. Every time an Atmos track is played with a trim off, it has like a 5 or 7 second sync time before you get audio. It's just how it works.
Yeah.
Sheldon, what are you doing over there?
Like up and down.
I was typing.
You can get some Born Identity shake going on over there.
I was
right?
talking about Chirpy's door. Somebody mentioned his door. I said it was an engineering marvel.
It is.
You want to know what? You know how they say that you can't stop bass? I think I've stopped most bass. Like I can play like 100, let's see here, maybe 100 inside the room. It's around 120, 125 decibels, 16 hertz tone. And if the door's open in the lobby, like the other doors in the lobby are flapping. I shut the door, it's all off.
Yeah, you showed me that. You were playing a song. It wasn't a tone, but it was a song that was pretty loud. And then we go into the room you're in right there, and yeah, shut the door. And it's like, is there even a system playing?
You've done the proverbial concrete bunker, is what.
Well, hold on though. He did say earlier that he's going to start running a little hotter.
But that's why I was checking the 16 hertz tone, right? So
that's remarkable.
That was good.
But
well, I laughed at this comment from Don, and he said it in person that made me laugh at the time too. He's one of my guests, and he had come through the room at the end of the day, and he said he didn't really look at the descriptions on the theaters that closely, and he ended up picking 3 theaters that had the same exact speakers, and he was like, "Well, that was
the ours." Yeah.
But the takeaway is, and Don, tell me if I'm wrong or not. The takeaway is, I bet you the theaters had different sound characteristics in spite of that.
I'm sure, especially with bass levels and stuff. However, the speakers do absolutely sound different, and you need to look no further than that Eclipse versus Focal versus Martin Logan room to know that those things sounded dramatically different.
True. Yes.
Yeah.
I think Don needs to just take that as a sign.
Yeah. So though I'll just keep this short. My tours were, I did about an hour or even an hour and a half of audio because that's really how I use my system more. So I was playing a lot of different stereo and Atmos tracks that I really enjoy, just sharing that. And a lot of the guys I found on my tours hadn't been exposed to Atmos music before, so that was kind of a first for them, and they were really enjoying it. I mean, like, I think they seemed to really be enjoying it. Then we flipped over to movies and we played some like curated movie tracks and so forth. I did a little transducer comparison, so I let them feel what near field feels like next to in seat back 8s, next to butt kickers. We played some craft work for that, and I just was toggling things back and on and off and letting people sit in the front row. Probably the favorite from the group was, one of them would be like Interstellar, Unbroken was popular, you know, just kind of those types of things. We had a good time. The second group, my second session, My HDMI cable failed, and I think it started failing at the tail end of the first session, but it wasn't bad enough to like, I didn't really know what was going on. The second session, it started dropping increasingly more and more through the course of the session. Towards the end of it, it was dropping like twice every 10 seconds or something. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. So at that point, I was like, I'm sorry, guys. I have to figure out what's going on. I can't really show my theater like this. It's cutting audio and dropping video constantly. So I'm like swapping HDMI cables and rebooting everything. And they lost. I felt real bad. I apologized to them in email. They lost 20 or 30 minutes of their session to that because I figured it out after they left. It was the cable. It was literally the active fiber cable that's 3 years old and been in my system. That went from my Marantz to my projector. And it's like, what are the chances of that dying today? But such happens, you know.
Of course it dies that day, right? Of course.
Yeah. And
like it was.
well, yeah, I mean, what do? You can't do.
Maybe people can give us advice, or what are you going to replace that with? Because we have the exact same cable.
Well, I mean, it's still under warranty. They have like I don't even know it's 5 years of lifetime, but it's really pro, and they have either one of those warranties. So I just wrote them an email, and they didn't give me any hassle. I didn't even have to like take a picture or do anything. They didn't have to troubleshoot with them. They're just like, yeah, I'll send you a new one. So a new one's already here. It came immediately.
Wow.
Like as far as warranty support, that's about as good as it gets.
Yep.
So I think mine was a Gen 2 cable. They sent me a Gen 3 cable. Hopefully I won't have more problem. I don't know.
I was thinking about getting something else. I just don't trust it because I get dropouts every once in a great while. Not for long. It just goes out and back in. But so okay.
I mean that's disappointing. Probably it was really disappointing to me because you spend so much time. We spend so much time. I mean, Ryan, you were talking about how staying up till 3, 4, 5 a.m. a lot of times trying to prepare for this. It wasn't that different, I'm sure, for Sheldon and I. We were staying up super late trying to pick our clips, trying to make sure everything was dialed in. Like you take pride in what you have and want to show it off well, right? You want it to be a success. So when something like that happens, it's like it's defeating. It's disappointing for all involved, I think. But what do you do? I mean, I don't know.
I think what I'm going to do is just have a secondary cord ran up there because I can't use the one that goes to my Epson. It won't work on the JVC because it's a 12 gig versus 18. But yeah, because that freaked me out too. I think before, MWAVE again, I would have another cord just waiting just in case. And then it will never fail because you're ready for the backup.
Right. Something else will fail instead.
Yeah, true.
So did you do a makeup session or anything for that? Or
I wrote them back an email and said, I really apologize for this. I'm going to do another session for a makeup session for somebody who missed it because of a flight on Friday night, and you can join the guy that missed it for a flight on Friday night. And they all were very, very generous. They were saying like, well, hey, we got a good sense of your system. Thank you very much. We're going to probably not. So I don't think any of them came, but I did have a small group come over on Friday night. And we had another session. It was fun. And everything was perfectly smooth in session 3 and session 4. So yeah, it's a dumb cable.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll probably answer some questions in here, but the last thing I have on my little list that we wanted to kind of talk about was, did you guys have any fun after hours or extra hangout time or, opportunities to kind of meet with people that you've talked to on the forums and stuff? Tell me a little bit about that if you encounter anything like that.
Well,
I'll go ahead.
Now you can go. No, this is a Midwest standoff. No, you.
I didn't do any of I didn't stay for the Saturday after because I went to the show with my good buddy and he was my ride, and so I didn't do that. But man, just the conversations at the show itself at MWAVE, it made it interesting with us kind of moving around in a group and trying to stay together, and because it's like somebody's always locked into a conversation. But it was super fun talking to people, and yeah, seeing some people you haven't seen in a while and then talking to people you've never met before. I had probably equal parts of both of that. I talked to a really nice guy into getting a 235/1 screen, so I accomplished that. He ended up
looked at me when you were evangelizing that at one point. You're like, yeah, here we go again. I know.
I get pushy. I can't help it. But it ended up good because he bought one of the screens that was there for a really good price. And It's about the same size as mine, just like a couple inches bigger, and he's got the NX7, so I think he's fine. I think he'll be fine with that screen size with that projector. I mean, I know the numbers say you want something smaller, but I think it looks good on this size screen.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I noticed just in general, there's like almost, I told my wife, it's almost like a bromance thing. You wouldn't think at a event where you don't necessarily know everybody that well that you would expect people to come up and give you a hug or like say, can I, talk to you a little bit or meet your hand or like pat you on the back, that kind of stuff. It's almost like almost like a high school locker room or something. There's like a friendly atmosphere there that feels genuine. Like it doesn't feel weird or awkward. But I had multiple people come up and like give me hugs and stuff, like that's kind of fun and kind of cool. Like it comes from a legitimate place where they're excited about the show. They're having a great time. You're just kind of joking around, like shoulder bumping people, like, hey, I saw you. It just seemed like a neat atmosphere, like where people were legitimately interacting and legitimately having conversations and having fun with each other. It didn't seem shallow or surface to me. So I enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah,
and that
we didn't
builds over the years, right? Like every year, like especially like the people who came the first year, or whatever, they're almost old school at this point, and they see each other when they get to the shows, right? And so that just those kinds of interactions, they just keep ramping up as the years go on. So.
Yeah, they do.
So one of the things that Youthman did on the first day, I don't know if he did on the other ones because I didn't come early enough on Saturday or Sunday for his little kickoff part. But on Friday, he had like basically anyone that was like he had all of us that was in that big room, the big conference room where they're doing the kind of keynote type talks and stuff. He had a lot of us come in there and then was trying to have us all stand up and try to find the different people from your own same state. And so we'd all like walk around and try to make these big groups and stuff. And so like I met some people that were from St. Charles, Missouri, over there by St. Louis. Two super cool guys. We're talking to them for a little bit. And it was just neat to be able to like his story behind that was the one, I forget his name now. The guy that's also on the podcast with you guys, Jonathan, that's working at MWAVE now. Rusty, yes. And how he had met one or two guys at the first MWAVE, and now they're up to like 20 members of their little local group. And so that's what we're kind of trying to do, is try to meet people from the same place. We also was talking about all the different people from like out of states and like different countries and all that, and just how far some people were willing to travel. I thought all that was just super cool. Agreed. And like he was asking if anyone brought their wives, which I raised my hand. My wife did say, "How come you didn't ask if any wives brought their husbands?" But it was fun. Yeah, I that whole stuff is, and just meeting people that you've seen a million times either on the forums or on YouTube and stuff, like Stop the FOMO and Brian that were doing the TV stuff. I've never met Nick in person. We had talked on the phone before. I've talked to him on the forums a lot and Discord and stuff. So it's kind of cool to be able to say, hey, and put a face to a name. Right. So it was just neat. We didn't stick around too long, like after, except for on Sunday, we helped pack up a little bit with you two. Mostly because I had to get home for my doggy. But yeah, it's just a great time.
Yeah. So Nick and Tony and Andy, Tony works with JTR, and Andy and Nick were the Projector guys. They spent almost the whole week at my house. We put them out in the camper in the driveway.
Put them out in the camper.
Really?
Yeah. So there's in the camper, it's a hybrid one that's got pop out beds, and there's 3 queen beds, so it was like a perfect fit. AC runs, it's nice, it's comfortable, yada yada. At any rate, they were out there, and they spent, when they'd come over, we'd come on down here and we'd hang out and we'd listen to movies, and they were calibrating my projector and like just joking around, clowning around, and having a lot of fun. You develop some fast friends in this hobby, and like those friendships last for years and years. I've known those guys for years at this point, and really, I really enjoy interacting. We're laughing together and having a great time. And it was like that kind of camaraderie was, at my house each night, which was a lot of fun for a week or so. They got so comfortable here. My dog's a German Shepherd, and that she's
Velma.
She's not fond of new people. Like it takes a little while to warm up. She's a little aggressive. She got to the point where she was just like, they were coming in the basement door, and she was just like, look at them, and She wouldn't even get up. You know.
Wow,
at
that's
some point.
something. You had to give me a treat to give the dog.
So it was a lot of fun. All right. Well, let's look at a couple questions. I think that goes through what we had. And if you guys saw anything in here that you want to call out, I know you can't start because this is just the free version of StreamYard. But anything you want me to call out, let me know. I saw a lot of good compliments for many of the hosts in the comments here. Like everything from like your room was amazing, Ryan and Sheldon, your tactile transducer and tactile setup was out of this world, and stuff like that. People are saying that they really liked Ivan's Atmos. So like there's a lot of commentary to the different hosts that's very positive. This was kind of a neat experience. Well, this is what kind of like the bromance thing I'm talking about. Eddie walked up to me at the show and he was with his dad, and like they were just super enthusiastic and kind of sharing their story, and it was neat. Like, hey, can I get a selfie with you and my dad? And we talked for a while. Like, fantastic. Just like, I don't know these guys, they don't know me, but we have something in common, and it was really fun to just talk and chat it up. I enjoy that kind of interaction.
Yeah, and you feel like you get to know these people you say I don't know them, they don't know me, but you feel like you get to know these people very, very quickly, especially they're on the tour in your house, and
it's just very genuine, like it's just really genuine.
I like the guys that were telling me about their setups and challenges and stuff that like one guy, Derek, he's got kind of a unique situation, and on his rear surrounds, he's going to attempt the 70J1s sideways just because it works better for the dispersion somehow. So I'll be curious. He hasn't done it yet. At least I don't think he has. So I'll be real curious how that works out for him. Just stuff like, it's just cool to have those kind of conversations with people. And
and I don't, as you guys are going to these shows more, I'm sure this will happen more and more and more to you as well. But this is our third year of it. Their third year of it. I don't own the show. I'm just an outsider guest like everyone else. But you'll have people reach out to you and say, hey, I've had these chats with you on AVS or on Discord. I want to introduce yourself in person. That's kind of cool. So put in a face to a name, that type of stuff, like you guys had already mentioned, is pretty common there, where you just get approached by someone and say, I see you're Jonathan. I've talked to you before, type thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So Youthman said Sound of Silence in the Cinemic room. I didn't hear that. Did anyone else hear that?
Oh, you know what he's talking about? He's talking about that Jeff Castelluccio guy who has like the deepest voice ever, or one of.
Yeah.
That guy, they also do they're an a cappella group. That guy's amazing. And they also do Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. I almost did that as one of my demos. Like, talk about feeling a voice with tactile, but it actually seems appropriate because his voice is so deep. But yeah, I'm sure that Sound of Silence in that on the Black Swans would have been amazing, because I think that's what he's talking about. I think it was on.
I assumed he was talking about the Disturbed track, like on Conan, but maybe not.
No, I think he's talking about the Jeff Castelluccio clip.
I think that's what it was in the chat that I spotted.
Yeah, I saw that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an interesting little conversation here. Chris says, Gene at Audioholics doesn't believe that anyone could listen to 140 without suffering permanent hearing damage.
Well, depending
True,
on the
but
range.
with hearing protection, limited time exposure, plus it's not 1 kilohertz content. All true, probably. We were listening to 140 dB in my subwoofer shootout in 2012, and my ears hurt for a full month after that. Sheldon, do you recall that kind of thing?
That was the orbit shifter night.
Yeah,
that was the cracked grout in the kitchen night.
Yeah, that was destructive.
That was one of two most intense things I've ever experienced. That and DLX.
Eyes shaking, and that's not something I've experienced very much.
We were leaning over the horns as Jeff was on the remote. It wasn't smart.
I don't ever near a speaker if Jeff has the remote. That's just.
I didn't wear earplugs during that thing, which was super stupid.
I don't think any of us did.
That was a lesson to me that I need to bring earplugs to these events. And honestly, truth be told, I avoid those extreme demos from that point on. Like when I've been to Luke and Man and Penny Nike's house, and those guys are capable of 150 dB, and the JTR, when they go up to 140, you have to sign a waiver to be in there at that time. I'm out, because I remember not having earplugs and feeling like my head was underwater for a month. Like, I don't need that.
I think those frequencies are okay for a real short period of time. A good example are my favorite demo scene I did was the ship cannons off Hacksaw Ridge. and I just did that part when it was shooting. I didn't do the whole battle scene, and I went 5 over reference on that. I don't think that hurt anybody. I mean, you could. I was sitting behind. It was
I
fun to
don't
watch.
think you hurt anybody.
You see all the heads that go like that, and kind of everybody kind of jump because it scares the crap out of you. But it's so quick, and it's got to be pretty high up there in dBs. But I don't think, since it's so quick, I don't think it could.
Do you think you're running in the 140 range on your subs at +5, or do you think you're at the 130 range? Like, where do you think you fall out? I know I'm in the 130 range. I don't
know, because I've
40
with 16 of them plus the near field. Now the next day, I had Ray and his buddy Todd coming over. The guys from Houston, they went over to your house after, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted
nice guys. I remember them.
Yeah, very. I wanted to experiment with turning up my sub stacks quite a bit more because they're not run very hot at all. I let the near field and the tactile do most of the work, but I wanted to see how hard I could push that scene at +5. And between as one does, and between the sub stacks and the 24, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a meter or anything, and I don't really care. I'm not into the whole drag racing thing. Unfortunately, I found the limits of one of my amps on that. I have one of those CVR amps, and it just said, and it stopped. And I'm like, oh,
lucky it didn't fry. That would have been terrible.
It blew. Well, I don't know if it blew, but it just stopped running and it wouldn't turn on. I unplugged it, and when it cooled down, I plugged it back in, and it turned right back on. So I think I'm going to swap out and go to get some 240 volt lines with 8 or 10 gauge, whichever I need for like a 50 to 60 foot run. So I don't do that because I'm not getting the full power out of my amps. But anyway, I don't know if that really answered your question. I have no idea, but I don't think 140, if it's a quick hitting, like that, like a cannon shot on a movie or something, like that's going to hurt you. If it's like long sustained explosions over and over again, yeah, that's not good.
Well, that
kind of like our experience in 2012.
You're all in base in this stuff anyway, right? So
yeah. It's
like the crack itself probably isn't 140. So
right,
yeah, or it shouldn't be, because then I would be there with Gene. It's like 140. Like I wouldn't risk anything if I could help it at 140 if it's anywhere near, if it's anywhere near 1 kilohertz.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not.
No, that'd be pretty awful actually at 140.
So, did any of you go into the extreme experience thing with Jeff?
Not this year. I literally stood outside the room while they were passing out the waivers. I did it last year.
I was starving to death because I forgot to eat lunch, so I walked down to Chipotle. I was eating when it happened.
I did it against my better judgment, but Grant said as long as I wear hearing protection, it should be fine. And
oh yeah,
I agree with that. It wasn't nearly as bad as DLBX or at your old house, Jonathan.
Yeah, with that orbit shifter, those pair orbit shifters, that was wild.
It was still pretty intense though. It's pretty fun. And they played Knife Party, which is a band or like a techno group that I really like. So that was fun.
So Ian is not here anymore. Maybe he is, but he was saying they also did blind speaker and input cable comparisons. And then he said a couple times we were running 7K retail speaker cables against Romax. Only one person guessed it right. So yeah, they did some of that comparison type stuff last year. MWAVE. I didn't even know. I must have missed the room they were doing that in. But that's always fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like last year, they did coat hangers against $7,000 speaker wire, and nobody could tell the difference. So, like
that's why I'm running nothing but coat hangers in my room after that demo.
And then Mark is telling me how to say it. It's Grimani.
And then somebody else directly below that says Gramani.
Grimani.
Gra.
Grimani.
You got a comment here about, and we know Miscreant. We met him there at the show. Big fan of the Velvet and Hover Easy. Very nice.
I'm a big fan of his Velvet and Hover Easy as well.
What's Miscreant's name? What's Miscreant's name?
He introduced himself at the show to me, and I don't remember his real name. I'm sorry, but he's on Discord. We could ask him. So let me look through the comments and see if there's already a bunch of new stuff since I was last in here. Anything you guys want to point out? Interesting cables.
Just in case. Did anybody else go to any of the presentations? We haven't even talked about that.
I did some.
Did Gramani do one? Did you go to that one, Tim? Didn't
Yeah,
you?
I watched about half of it. We split out. They were going for a while. We ended up jumping out of there though. But
That's
he
the one I
was
wanted
with
to do.
he was with two other people just talking like home design, and they were taking questions and stuff. There was another guy, I forget his name, that was doing one right before that we watched his whole thing. Where he's from California. He was finishing a room where like he had a lot of things to overcome for this like living room setup, and then he also was building like a theater in another room as well. And so he's kind of going over like design ideas and just like his troubleshooting process and things like that. And they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then we went to both the TV and to the projector shootout stuff, to the actual proper event stuff of them, and they both of those were like highlights to me.
That was Nick, right?
Yeah.
Projector.
And the projector, yeah.
Yeah. I caught about, I'd say most of that. I had to duck out because I wanted to check the RP22 presentation and I needed to grab a bite to eat, but I caught most of it. And most of it was stuff I knew already, but it was cool to see the clips that they used to highlight the different things, to point out the stuff they were talking about in the projector shootout thing. The RP22 thing was more of like an introduction to the document, as opposed, and then going over some of the highlights of what's covered in it. And they had a link that they handed out that you could download the thing if you wanted to. And so it was more of a setup for going through the document, as opposed to going into anything too in depth. But again, it was one of those funny things where you ask one question to one person, they're like, nope, can't do that. And then another person walks into the room and somebody asks the same question and they're like, yeah, you could probably be able to get away with that with the following things, right? So again, this is sort of what we were talking about earlier, where you have to take some things with a grain of salt a little bit. And then it's also a priority thing too, right? Like the presenter for the RP22 said, man, if you want to, you want to have as low a noise floor as possible. And wouldn't it be great if you could build a concrete bunker and then put all your stuff inside of there? And then the next person who walks into the room is like, oh man, that's going to be terrible for bass. You would never want a concrete bunker. Don't ever do that. And you want walls that are going to be flexing, right? And the thing is, they're both technically right, depending on what you're talking about, right? So this is the part you have to be careful about. So, but it was interesting. I would probably say, at least for the RP22 one, just be aware that it's more of like a setup for the document and how to use it, as opposed to like going into things in depth. It took about almost half an hour just to get to the document, so it was a little slow ramp up.
What is RP22? I don't even know what that is.
It's those new set of standards that they're putting out there for different types of like
sizes.
Yeah, not just sizes of rooms. They've broken them up in levels, like capabilities of what a room can pull off, and they have a bunch of different parameters. And it's kind of like if you took like, oh well, this is a THX room certified, or instead this is an RP22 level 1, 2, 3, 4 certified kind of thing, and it's through CEDIA and then all its constituents. So what ends up happening is my takeaway for that would be, I don't care about it meeting these requirements, but it is a good checklist to put yourself against if you're looking for like what is it that I could potentially be improving, or what could I look at in a room that I might not have before, or I might have accidentally ignored if I'm planning something. I'd say it would be good for that kind of thing, especially.
There's certain things that are like that you would have to have a room purpose built to meet, like distance from speakers or noise floors and stuff like that come into play for your tiering.
Yeah, and they specifically said that the thing that would probably knock out most people out of contention for like the upper level stuff, that the hardest one to achieve would be the low noise floor. That's the trickiest one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I wanted to go to, and somehow I think I got wrapped up in something else and missed it completely.
Well, that one was an hour and a half.
Buying gear.
It was 2 hours long.
Yeah, that was a little too long to commit to. I thought with the rest of the show I still wanted to see things, but
yeah, and in hindsight I probably would have swapped it out for something else, only because I didn't go all day Saturday, right? So that was that.
Oh, one other thing about the tour, I asked I forgot on one, but in 2 of my groups, I asked them who's been to MWAVE before, and it was less than half of those 2 groups, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's cool both ways. It's cool to have people that come back, but to have that many that hadn't even been there before, that was kind of cool too.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope it keeps going.
All right, we stalled for time, Jonathan. What'd you find?
No, I mean, I read through all the comments. I think we're pretty good. There's just a lot of like attaboys for the different rooms in here. There's some commentaries from some of our friends that are doing some insider joke type stuff. You can read the comments on the stream if you're watching it after the fact and get some of the background from some other people. I don't know. I think we kind of covered what we wanted to cover, right? So thanks for joining tonight and talking it through.
Good times.
Thank you kindly. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, I spotted a question.
Go ahead. What do you got? You want me to post it, or maybe I don't?
It's a funny one. It's not a technical one. It says the question is, how was the birthday dinner? Please thank your wife for putting up with us on our birthday. So we did. So yeah, she made it to half a century the same day that we had our tour.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
there you have it. So that was, and we talked about that way in advance. I said, hey, this is like in October of last year. I said, hey, there's this thing. Can I do it? By the way, here's the date.
Oh no.
Whoopsie.
So, but we did make it out. We made it out to a late dinner. It was very nice. So we were able to make that one happen just at the end of the day. So we did make it out, and we were able to make it back home without falling asleep while driving. So that's good. So
Yeah. Very good. Your wife's a saint for that. To let that happen on her birthday.
I know, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, and she stayed up until 4 a.m. the night before with me. She just took like a 3-hour nap and then got back up too. So yeah, up until to all the wives out there that put, and girlfriends and significant others who put up with the eccentricities of our hobbies because they know we love it, appreciate you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know my wife deserves some props as well for that. She puts up with a lot. So thank you, Megan.
Oh, Jonathan, I know we're about to go, but I see somebody asked about our thoughts on deep sea sound. I don't want to forget the stuff that was in the hallway because it was more.
Oh,
you know, last year
In the
was
seats.
rooms.
Yeah, there were definitely displays that didn't have like working rooms, but just kind of showing off their product. Kaleidoscape, Mad VR, I think, some sort of little Zydo or something player, Deep Sea Sound, Desert Domes, Impact AV had a little setup. Yeah, like little things like that.
But no, I love those cabinets. I like that. Is it aluminum, that newer one?
Yes,
so
isn't that
cool.
And the way he had it welded together and everything with that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Magico has I asked David, I said, are you going to go to an upscale market with your like a $300,000 sub? Because that's what like Magico's aluminum sub is. He's like, no, we're not doing anything like that. It's pretty cool to see that done. And his cabinets are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
Really
did you guys talk to the Kaleidoscape guy at all?
I didn't.
I didn't either.
I did. Yeah. I wanted his whole rundown. Like I was like, act as if I know nothing about your product and just give me the whole spiel. And he's like, I'll do it. And so I spent probably a good, 35 minutes or so with them. I really want one. I just don't know if I want to spend the money for it, but I really want one.
So Tim, oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
I was going to say that you can get an older gen one on eBay, which may not suit your fancy, but they're so expensive otherwise. You might be able to they're like a white chassis unit instead of the newer ones that are black chassis, and they're hundreds of dollars instead of tens of thousands of dollars.
So yeah, Tim, break it down. Was it like, how much was it for one? And then and then you got to buy each individual movie on top of that. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, essentially. So how their market works now is you basically buy a server portion, which is the Terra, and then you've got the Stratus that is the player. And so if you have the server part, you can then link it to multiple of the players throughout your house if you want to have multiple areas or whatever. Apparently in the past they had a Stratus that had the server in it, like a smaller hard drive to store stuff to, and they stopped doing that. And I was like, dang it, that's the one I want. I just need one spot, one little all in one unit. And that's what all the people were using on their displays or on their demos throughout MWAVE was that older unit. I'm like, that's the one I want.
Yeah.
Maybe I should hit up Michael. Maybe he can get me in touch with someone that has like an out of use unit or something.
Yeah.
Because I think that would save me a little bit of money. It's still stupid expensive, but yeah. So they have, you know, tons and tons of movies and stuff that you get. Basically, what is sent to the movie theaters is what is supposed to be on their network, and then it just downloads, and you get that full uncompressed movie.
They have higher bit rate than Blu-rays in some cases, not all, but in some cases.
Right,
For instance,
it
Blu-rays.
It depends on what the publisher of the movie gives them, but typically it is higher than the UHDs.
So to put a point on it, and the Youthman podcast one week we had Kaleidoscape on, and Tim, you might find that of interest, although you probably already know what he told us at that point. But a Blu-ray is capped at 50 gigabytes, and the Kaleidoscape has up to, I think it had a 90 gigabyte and 110 gigabyte, so less compression, less video compression, like more true to the original camera footage, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and one thing that he did say is that if you buy like what you'd buy for like a laptop Blu-ray drive, you can take some of your old movies, put it in, have it connected to that, and then it gives you the option to buy that movie again at a reduced price. And again, it depends on the publisher, because some of them are like 50% off and others are like, you know, chunk change off, like
But you
$1 off.
you can't load like what you have on a hard drive onto it.
Correct. No.
The
It
only
would be
thing
its
that-
own separate unit.
I think the only thing you can load of your own is like, let's say you create your own like intro clips or whatever. I think there is a method that you can get those up, but I can't remember if it requires an approval once it is. That's the part I can't remember. But the stuff that's non-copyrighted that you created, there is a method to get that on there, but I can't remember exactly the steps to get there.
I think somebody told me one time, or maybe even that podcast, that there has to be an official approval. Like it's not offline if you make your own clips.
Yeah.
I just have to certify it's okay to have it on there.
Because that was one of the things that, you know, I sort of kicked the tire on that because I like putting in my own little separate bump and stuff to like start my shows if I ever show movies, if I can help it. Right. So, and I was always wondering how that would happen with that type of system.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks for your time, gentlemen. It was fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right.
See you guys.
Come join us
Check it out in the future.
Yep. Bye
Thanks,
for now.
chat.
Bye.